The story begins by introducing the character of Saraphina, who is described as both beautiful and pitiable at once, appearing as a puppeteer controlling the fates of others on the stage of life. Saraphina is portrayed as the heroine of this world, always standing under the spotlight as its most brilliant and radiant figure. She is introduced by her full name, Saraphina Lopez, through the words of another character who appears to be her friend and the narrator of events. The scene then shifts to a confrontation where a lady asks Saraphina if she hasn't grown tired yet of manipulating others, whom she likens to puppets on her stage. That lady warns Saraphina that she must bid her attachment puppets a final farewell, in a scene that suggests an imminent threat. She declares her intention to destroy the puppet play Saraphina is staging and expose her before everyone. Then, she bids her a cold farewell, calling her a hypocrite and declaring the end of her era. After that, the scene moves to the ballroom of the Imperial Palace, where Lady Lopez appears surrounded by admirers as usual, to the point that there is hardly an inch of space to approach her. One lady comments that Saraphina's popularity befits her status as the lily of high society, expressing a desire to speak with her. However, she notices that the person who always accompanies Saraphina is not by her side today, so her companion asks if she means Lady Anie. The other confirms, describing Anie as the woman who volunteered to be Saraphina's errand runner, to the extent that her shabby clothes at every party led some to believe she was merely a maid. She adds that she used to cling to Lady Lopez as if she suffered from separation anxiety, making her absence today quite questionable. At that moment, an exceptionally elegant lady passes by them, striking them with her beauty and sophistication before they even realize her identity. Internally, Anie recalls the insulting titles the members of high society used to call her, such as errand runner, the maid, and Saraphina's leech. She remembers other titles like the one with separation anxiety and the doormat, and addresses Saraphina internally, asserting that she was the one who intentionally made others call her by these names. In contrast to the past, Anie now arouses the admiration of the attendees, who wonder about her beauty and the noble family she belongs to, while she thinks to herself that this luxurious dress does not suit her current reality. Meanwhile, Lady Lopez is the center of attention for men competing to ask her for a dance. The competition among them intensifies, with each trying to convince her of his right to dance with her, expressing their deep admiration for her. Saraphina responds with affected shyness, claiming that their words embarrass her, while secretly enjoying the attention. It is commented that she is always beloved as she ever was, which is fitting for the most beautiful lady in high society. However, this scene is interrupted by the arrival of Anie, who asks the gentleman to step aside for a moment, then announces her presence to Saraphina. Shock is clearly visible on Saraphina's face as she calls her by her nickname, Laurie. Anie apologizes for arriving separately and coldly asks her if she had been waiting long. The men surrounding Saraphina are stunned upon recognizing Lady Anie's identity, unable to believe that this glamorous woman is the same one they knew before. Two ladies whisper in the background about the radical change in Anie's appearance, pointing out her luxurious dress designed by Madame Saverno and her hair ornaments from the latest Chelsea collection. Their amazement reaches the point of saying that even Lady Lopez herself does not own such precious items. While Saraphina listens to their whispers with a sullen face, Saraphina speaks to Laurie, saying with veiled sarcasm that she must have been looking forward to today's party, as evidenced by the great effort she put into her appearance. She continues her verbal attack, questioning with a pretense of concern what could be done, as the dress and jewelry do not seem to suit Anie at all. She takes her hands to complete her insult, describing her features as simple and ordinary, and that this extravagance in clothing creates a discord with her look, expressing regret for the money spent on it. She mentions that if she had consulted her, she would have chosen a dress that suited her perfectly. Saraphina continues her condescending talk, claiming that she is the one who knows Laurie better than anyone else, hinting that she is best suited to determine what fits her. But she is interrupted by a blonde lady wearing a blue dress who asks sarcastically if Saraphina was directing these words for her to hear. The attendees recognize the new lady with astonishment, whispering her name, Lady Claudius, as she opens her fan with confidence. Lady Claudius then reveals with a confident smile that she was the one who chose Anie's dress herself, directly challenging Saraphina's criticism. She is introduced as Evangelene Claudius. If Saraphina is the lily of high society, then Evangelene is its most magnificent rose. She is also known as the only noble daughter of the only duke's family in the empire. She then puts her arm around Anie and announces before everyone that Anie now stands by her side, not Saraphina's. A state of confusion prevails among the attendees who wonder about the reason for Lady Claudius's intervention, while Saraphina stands shocked by the situation. Evangelene then addresses Saraphina, asking if she truly knows Larry well, pointing out that the people's sudden reaction to Ansie's new look proves otherwise, adding proudly that she was the one who designed Larry's entire look for today. Saraphina freezes in place, wondering to herself how Lady Claudius knows Ansie, and even how she dares to call her by her nickname. Lady Claudius directly accuses Saraphina, explaining that her belittling of Larry and saying the dress doesn't suit her is an insinuation that her own taste, meaning Claudius's, is not refined. Saraphina tries to retreat in confusion, insisting that this was not her intention at all, but Evangelene ignores her justification and smiles triumphantly, then embraces Ansie, saying that compared to Lady Lopez, who judges others' tastes so easily, it is only natural that Larry is the most beautiful. She then defiantly asks Saraphina if she agrees, putting her in an embarrassing position before everyone. The attendees quickly change their stance, beginning to praise Ansie's beauty, which they hadn't noticed before, and lauding the high aesthetic taste possessed by Lady Claudius. Even one of the men who was courting Saraphina moments ago confidently declares that Ansie will surely be the most prominent lady at this party. Saraphina looks at Ansie with a face full of defeat and betrayal, whispering her name and wondering how she could do this to her. She then begins to cry, attempting to play the role of the victim, claiming she was only giving advice as a friend and that Ansie is treating her this harshly only because she met the Duke's daughter. Lady Claudius looks at her with disdain, commenting that since Saraphina cannot criticize her directly, she attacks Larry instead. She sternly demands that she stop trying to cover her mistakes with tears, reminding her that true friends do not dictate to each other what they should do. She adds that if she wishes to maintain her relationship with Ansie, she must apologize to her first. Then she invites Larry to leave without waiting for a response, and Ansie happily complies. Saraphina is left standing alone, looking at them with anger and hatred, while crushing the fan in her hand out of sheer rage. The scene then shifts to the garden outside, where Ansie was walking with Lady Claudius, thanking her for her help. Lady Claudius asks her to listen carefully, explaining that the dress she gifted her was not an expression of her admiration for her. She justifies her action by saying she feels embarrassed if the person standing next to her looks shabby, and that she does not like her followers to be belittled. She then orders her to stay by her side so that this situation does not happen again, asking if she understood. Ansie recalls this situation and thinks to herself, describing Evangelene as villainous, which reveals that she realizes she is living inside a story and that Claudius is the villain in it. She remembers her response that day, where she confirmed her full loyalty to Lady Claudius, considering this alliance the best thing that ever happened to her. The narrative then shifts to an older memory, a few weeks ago at a tea party at the Johansson estate, which is apparently when the narrator entered the body of Lariat Ansie. She remembers that moment she woke up in this body, how she felt confused and unable to see, realizing immediately that she had fallen into a ridiculous and strange situation. The events begin to return to the past, where Lariat appears carrying cushions and approaching Saraphina, who is sitting with a young man, asking her anxiously if she was okay. The young man explains to Saraphina that he brought the cushions in case she felt tired. The young man sitting next to Saraphina shows great concern for her, asking if she is exhausted from sitting too long or if her back hurts. Saraphina responds to him kindly, thanking him for his concern and confirming she is fine, but expressing her happiness at his worry for her. Lariat thinks to herself, identifying them as her childhood friends. Although it is the first time she sees them with her new soul, she realizes from the original body's memories that they were very close. However, she is surprised when she retrieves her memory, which tells her that this young man, Gregor, is actually her fiancé, so she wonders in confusion why he is next to Saraphina and caring for her in this manner. Gregor then offers tea to Saraphina, calling her by her name, Sarah, reminding her that it is her favorite drink, while Lariat wonders to herself if Gregor was the one who made her carry the cushions as well, revealing that he exploits her to serve Saraphina. Saraphina continues her talk, expressing her thanks to Countess Johansson for hosting the tea party that brought back childhood memories, referring to the outings the three of them used to take together. She then mentions a specific incident, which was Larry falling into the water, describing it as shocking. Gregor comments on her talk, reminding her that Saraphina had injured her knee while saving her, then directs his words to Lariat directly, telling her that she is alive thanks to Saraphina and that she should be grateful and treat her better. Lariat feels helpless and wonders why she cannot respond to these words, as her lips seem heavy, preventing her from defending herself. At this moment, another memory surfaces. The day she fell into the pond as a child. She remembers how she drowned in the water that day. She She remembers that it was Saraphina who saved her that day by extending a stick for her to hold on to. The scene continues in her memory, where she comes out of the water coughing, while Saraphina asks if she is okay, but she adds with a mysterious smile that she should have been more careful. Lariat returns to the present, wondering if this is the reason for her total submission to Saraphina and her carrying out everything she asks of her without hesitation. While she is in this state of reflection, Saraphina intentionally spills the tea, and Lariat stands ready. Here, the full truth of the incident becomes clear, as she remembers that before she fell into the water, Saraphina was asking her for help to pick flowers from the pond, on the pretext that she couldn't reach them herself. Saraphina used emotional manipulation, telling her that she was the only friend she had. The picture becomes complete in Lariat's mind, and she realizes the bitter truth, that her fall into the water was caused by Saraphina herself. Returning to the tea party scene, Saraphina pretends to be upset because she accidentally spilled the tea, wondering what she should do. She then asks Larry for help, claiming her dress is wet and her shoelace has come undone. At this moment, Lariat wonders how she endured someone like Saraphina all this time. But Lariat stands frozen in her place, in a state of shock from her new realization. Gregor intervenes and violently takes the cushions from her, shouting in her face and wondering what she is doing. He orders her to hurry and help Saraphina, who is in trouble, while he asks Saraphina to lean on the cushions to rest. The ladies present whisper, commenting that Lady Anie is clinging to her social status by acting as a maid again, and that this is the only way she can maintain her friendship with Lady Lopez. Lariat hears these comments and wonders to herself how her body can move in such a humiliating way. Despite being the heiress to a Viscount rank, she kneels to tie Saraphina's shoe, appearing in her dark clothes exactly like her shadow, wondering why this body moves with such submission. Then she hears another comment that increases her understanding of the situation, as one lady says that Lady Lopez's beauty stands out more when the gloomy Lady Anie is beside her, making her realize she was being used as a tool to polish her friend's image. Lariat addresses Anie herself, wondering if she will really remain silent after hearing all those insults. While Saraphina watches her with a sarcastic smile, she continues to scold herself, explaining that they underestimate her and control her strings as if she were a puppet. It reaches the peak of motivation, wondering aloud if she doesn't even feel anger. And at that moment, Lariat's gaze changes and her eyes ignite with a new spark of defiance. She urges herself not to give up, as happened in the original story, and not to accept this humiliating situation anymore. In response to this internal awakening, Lariat rises with a sudden and violent movement and tips Saraphina over out of annoyance. This movement leads to Saraphina falling backward from her seat in a state of shock and bewilderment. Absolute shock appears on Saraphina's face, as she did not expect this reaction at all. Gregor rises angrily, shouting at Lariat and wondering crazily what she is doing. But Lariat looks at her trembling hands and realizes with amazement that she has finally become able to move her body of her own free will. The narrative then begins to explain the story of the novel Lariat finds herself in, titled Beloved Saraphina, where the story begins with Saraphina living in a small village. Despite her poverty, she was generous to the poor, an act stemming from her kind heart. People around her helped and supported her debut in high society, hoping that a beloved girl like her would find a good person worthy of her. However, due to the hatred and jealousy of the villainess in the story, Lady Claudius, Saraphina goes through great trials and tribulations. Yet, the brave Saraphina manages to overcome all those trials. In the end, she finds true love and lives happily ever after. Lariat realizes that her role in this story is that of the childhood friend with no presence, a marginal character to the point that her face was always hidden by her bangs even in the novel's illustrations. Returning to the present after Saraphina's fall, Gregor rushes to her with great concern, asking her if she is okay and whether he should call a doctor, while one of the attendees wonders what happened. This moment reveals that the girl who is different on the inside from the outside, namely Saraphina, is the heroine of this story. Gregor continues to shout at Lariat, decrying her standing motionless, and orders her to hurry and apologize while Saraphina tries to calm him with affected kindness. The ladies in the background whisper. One mocks that Lady Lopez has actually fallen on her back, while the other accuses her of pushing her intentionally because of her jealousy over Saraphina's relationship with the young Mr. Gregor. Gregor ignores these whispers and repeats his scolding of Lariat, reminding her that he told her before to treat Sarah better. Then Saraphina pretends to be dizzy, telling Gregor that she feels the dizziness returning. She seductively asks him if she can lean on him for a moment, claiming she was so scared she is about to cry. Gregor's agitation increases, and he directs the blame toward Lariette, warning her of dire consequences if any harm befell the weak Saraphina. He continues his dramatic exaggeration, assuring Saraphina that everything will be fine and that he will call a doctor, while Lariette watches this exaggerated scene, thinking to herself that she wishes he would lower his voice a bit. Then she wonders in confusion if they are doing all this to make her jealous, but she decides to get up first and then apologize. Saraphina notices the new expression on Lariette's face, wondering at her calm look, as she expected her to lower her eyes and apologize while nearly dying of fear, as she always did. She asks indignantly what has suddenly come over her. At this moment, another lady intervenes, suggesting that, as Lady Anie said, it is better for the young Mr. Gusto, which is Gregor's first name, and Lady Lopez to get up first. This lady is introduced as Countess Johansson, the hostess of the party, who tells them she has made prior arrangements to ensure her esteemed guests are not harmed and offers to escort them to the lounge. The young Gregor continues his excessive concern, considering that the delicate Saraphina might be severely hurt even by a simple shock, and suggests it's better to call a doctor, thus ignoring all the preparations the hostess made. Countess Johansson watches the situation with deep thought, and her face shows a mixture of reflection and amazement as she listens to Gregor's talk, and Anie wonders in shock at what he is saying. The Countess had put great effort into preparing for the party, carefully laying out soft grass with the finest types of carpets, preparing various tea foods to suit the guests' tastes, and readying dozens of servants to help. Anie considers that Gregor's remark completely ignores the Countess's appreciation as a hostess, and wonders to herself how Saraphina could be hurt given all these cushions placed to protect her. She thinks that if a rumor spread about one of her guests being injured, it would bring shame and tarnish the Countess's reputation as a party hostess. For this reason, she declares that she cannot allow such a thing to happen at all. At that point, Lariette steps forward and apologizes to Countess Johansson. Lariette takes responsibility, explaining that the accident occurred while she was checking Saraphina's shoe, and that her mistake is what caused this commotion, expressing regret for worrying everyone. Gregor looks at her in disbelief, seriously wondering how such a situation could occur, and Saraphina fall to the ground while someone was merely checking her shoe. But Lariette responds calmly and confidently, agreeing with his words, then adds that Saraphina's shoelaces were tied tightly, which she found strange, and wonders with veiled sarcasm if she should check the matter more closely. Saraphina is shocked by this unexpected response and freezes in her place, unable to speak. Realizing that Lariette is acting out of character, Lariette then speaks directly to Saraphina and apologizes mockingly, saying she barely touched her, but it seems her body is so thin that she fell immediately, then asks her if she will forgive her for this naive mistake. She extends her hand to Saraphina to help her up, asking her to do so kindly, as is always the case, in a sarcastic reference to the way Saraphina used to be treated. Countess Johansson intervenes at this moment and asks Lariette to stop, then wonders aloud if Lady Lopez intended to make Lady Anie kneel before her. Saraphina becomes flustered and tries to deny the accusation quickly, insisting that what happened could be nothing but a misunderstanding. One of the ladies present supports her, claiming that Lady Lopez was in a bad state after spilling the tea, and that Lady Anie went to her only under the pretext of helping clean up, but the Countess remains unconvinced. The Countess rejects these excuses and asks Lariette to stand up, telling her she will help set things right, then orders one of the maids to escort the guests out, thus indirectly ending the party. As the Countess turns her back on them, she tells Lady Lopez that she hopes she continues to enjoy her time. In a clear and explicit snub, Saraphina feels shocked and calls out to the Countess, while Lariette thinks to herself that this is the first feeling of being ignored Saraphina has experienced in her life. Lariette realizes that this feeling of being ignored is the same one she faced all her life, while Saraphina continues to call the Countess in shock and disbelief. A few days later, at Viscount Ancie's manor, one of the maids enters Lariette's room and tells her that letters are still arriving from Lady Lopez and the young Mr. Gusto. Lariette responds calmly, busy writing at her desk, and orders the maid to throw all those letters into the fireplace. She adds that she has more important matters to attend to and asks the maid to handle all their letters in this manner. The maid complies with her orders. Lariette thinks to herself that she is now focusing on the most urgent matter in her life as she looks at the document she just finished writing. The document is revealed to be a letter of engagement annulment. Lariette seals the letter with red wax, confident in her decision, thinking that the documents she prepared are perfect, as she used other cases to ensure there were no loopholes. She remembers how Gregor and Saraphina treated her as a maid and affirms to herself that she needs to cut her relationship with them as soon as possible and that she won't allow anyone to exploit her this way anymore. She recalls the fact that Gregor descends from a count's family, but he is the second son who cannot inherit the title. For this reason, she fully realizes his true motive for marrying her. She is the heiress of a Viscount family that owns lands, and by marrying her, he would obtain the Viscount title and the Anie family lands. She also remembers that her parents had tried to prevent this engagement after realizing Gregor's true intentions, which confirms to her that her decision to annul the engagement is correct. She holds the sealed letter and wonders if she should send it quickly for the sake of the Anie family's peace and stability. As Lariette was preparing to leave her office, she stopped upon hearing the sound of footsteps approaching the door. Suddenly, the door is violently opened to reveal Gregor in a state of intense anger, which strikes her with amazement. Lariette immediately recognizes the intruder's identity and calls his name in confusion, while Gregor looks at her with gazes full of hatred and anger. Her maid appears behind him to apologize in confusion, explaining she was about to escort him to the drawing room, but he burst into the place suddenly without prior warning. Lariette nods calmly and tells the maid it's okay, asking her to wait outside with the head butler, Hans, finding herself alone facing Gregor. Lariette takes a deep breath and faces him steadily, wondering if he really intended to barge into her private room in such a rude manner. Gregor explodes in anger, calling her insolent, and wonders crazily how she dared to ignore his letters and summons, accusing her of being insane. But she responds to him with sharp calmness, pointing out that he is the one who is more insane for barging into her room without permission, then claims she was sick and therefore couldn't respond, asking him if there was an urgent matter. Gregor approaches her and asks if she realizes the magnitude of the problem they caused after she left the outing in that manner, and orders her to hurry and apologize to him and Saraphina. Lariette feigns a cough, claiming she didn't hear him well because of the coughing fit that struck her, and asks him to repeat his words again in a clear and explicit challenge to him. Gregor stands shocked by her unexpected reaction, looking at her in a state of bewilderment and confusion. Then she turns her face away from him with disdain, wondering sarcastically if she isn't even allowed to pretend to be sick, adding that enduring his nonsense is nothing but a waste of her time and energy. She turns the situation against him, asking what apology he is talking about, and tells him that he is the one who should apologize to her as she holds up the letter she was writing. She explains to him that barging into a lady's room without knocking, instead of waiting for her in the drawing room, is an extremely rude act, expressing her disappointment that he didn't even maintain the simplest rules of etiquette between them. Gregor tries to justify his action, protesting that she is his fiancée and that he has the right to act naturally with her without affectation. But she interrupts him calmly, reminding him that his actions do not befit a fiancé, starting from his preference for Saraphina over her at the outing, and ending with him sending letters full of harassment for several days. Gregor defends himself in confusion, claiming that Saraphina is his childhood friend, and that is why he stayed by her side, then tries to blame her, asking if she wasn't worried about Saraphina at all. He mocks her, describing her as never having owned an atom of appreciation for others, and wonders indignantly who would want to maintain an engagement with a woman of such selfishness, threatening her that she must behave better before he decides to go easy on her. Lariette smiles triumphantly and tells him he said it well, then presents him with the letter, announcing it is the letter of their engagement annulment, and that she will grant his wish perfectly. Gregor looks at the letter in absolute shock, freezing in his place, unable to speak. She explains the reason to him, coldly, pointing out that he was too busy caring for his dear friend in the last few days to even notice that his fiancée was sick, asserting she doesn't want a man like him, and for that reason they must separate, offering to send the letter by mail if he doesn't want to take it himself. Then she dismisses him coldly, claiming she needs more rest and asking him to leave, while Gregor stands unable to respond. She turns away from him and calls her servants, Anie and Hans, telling them their guest is leaving and ordering them to escort him out as dictates propriety. The two servants enter immediately, confirming their compliance with their mistress's order. Head butler Hans, of massive build, steps toward Gregor and tells him he will escort him to his carriage. Gregor takes a step back unconsciously, looking extremely tense. Gregor tries to save face, pretending to be calm and saying he will leave today since she claims to be sick. As the servants lead him out, Gregor shouts that they will discuss the annulment matter later and that his talk with her isn't over yet. Lariette waves her hand, bidding him a cold farewell, thinking to herself that he looks pitiable being dragged out like an annoying person being evicted. As soon as he leaves, she sighs in relief, feeling comfortable that she finally managed to get rid of him. Then she thinks about the whole situation, how her fiancé barged into her room and accused her of madness, and how she was subjected to all this harassment just because she angered the story's heroine. She sits on her chair with tiredness and exhaustion, concluding that living as a secondary character in this story is nothing but pure suffering, wishing she could have a drink at this moment. Lariette sits alone sipping a glass of wine, wondering in confusion if her life will really change even after her engagement is annulled, while the reflection of her face in the glass seems a symbol of the state of deep reflection she is passing through. She realizes that people in this world move according to the whims of the story's heroine, Saraphina, and that their unconditional love for her is part of their default settings that cannot be changed. She wonders anxiously if she, as a secondary character, is capable of fully liberating herself from the heroine's trap. A picture appears in her imagination of herself tied with puppet strings, in reference to Saraphina's control over her. But she suddenly remembers that she wasn't the only one Saraphina manipulated, which gives her a glimmer of hope. She recalls in her memory the image of the notorious villainess in the story, Lady Claudius. She remembers how Claudius, in her role as the villainess, was the one who caused hardships and misery for Saraphina throughout the story's events. She also remembers how the main protagonist and her brother, Duke Claudius, gets involved with Saraphina while trying to stop his villainous sister's actions. She concludes that since the story is still at its beginning, there shouldn't have been any friction yet between Saraphina and Lady Claudius. But she realizes that Saraphina's situation will remain difficult, for this is the stage where she begins spreading false rumors and stirring up trouble. In a moment of sudden realization, Lariette shouts to herself that Saraphina is the real villainess, then begins drinking wine angrily, wondering why Saraphina pursues Lady Claudius, although she is the one who always starts problems. She reaches a firm conviction that both of them, herself and Lady Claudius, have been subjected to unfair harassment by Saraphina, and wonders sarcastically if they can give Saraphina a taste of her own medicine. Lariette stops for a moment, wondering about the possibility of an alliance with Lady Claudius, who is in the same situation as her, thinking that this alliance might be the way to break these cliches that continue to torment her. Her eyes brighten with enthusiasm, and she becomes certain this idea will work, announcing to herself happily that she has come up with an amazing idea. The next morning, a letter sealed with red wax is sent to Duke Claudius's residence. Evangelene Claudius receives the letter, and as she reads it, a mysterious smile appears on her face. Her brother asks her about the identity of the sender who made her smile this way. Evangelene responds that she hasn't heard this name before, but she can say she is a very bold young lady. The next day, Lariette wakes up feeling a headache, wondering anxiously with her maid Anie if she had really sent the letter the previous night. The maid confirms she did. Anie tells her that she repeated the order to deliver the letter to Lady Claudius as soon as possible more than 10 times, and that she emphasized that the lady must see it herself. Lariette goes crazy, shouting that she doesn't even remember what she wrote in the letter. Burying her face in the pillow in a state of panic and regret, she thinks to herself that even if she intended to send the letter, she shouldn't have done it while drunk, wishing she could go back in time to yesterday. Her state of panic increases, imagining catastrophic scenarios, like having written something strange or committed spelling mistakes. While she is in this state, her maid tells her a guest has arrived. Lariette wonders about the guest's identity, and the maid tells her it is Lady Lopez. Lariette immediately concludes that Saraphina didn't get an apology after sending Gregor, and that she came personally to scold and annoy her. But Lariette decides she won't give in to Saraphina's games anymore, asking her maid to tell Lady Lopez that she isn't feeling well and that she must come up to her room herself. Saraphina comes up to the room, calling Laurie in a state of shock and concern. She kneels by her bed, asking with affected concern if she is okay because she heard she wasn't feeling well. Lariette responds calmly, thanking her for her concern and confirming she feels a little better. Saraphina comments that she didn't expect Lariette to summon her to her room this way, and that she thought she could barely stand on her feet. Lariette answers that she was always the one to initiate contact, wondering why she should endure this poor treatment instead of facing her frankly. She adds that she never once sat in her family's drawing room, and that she always feels she is closer to being a maid than a guest, then concludes her talk with a sarcastic apology, saying she is sorry if Saraphina feels the same way now. Saraphina feigns shock and sighs with affected sadness, saying it would have been better if Lariette had been frank with her about these feelings in the past. She adds she never knew Lariette thought this way, in an attempt to show herself as an innocent friend, ignorant of her friend's suffering. Despite the situation, Lariette feels her body trembling with fear due to the intimidation Saraphina practices on her, showing the effect of psychological trauma in her eyes. She realizes at that moment that her body hasn't fully liberated itself yet from Saraphina's influence and long control over it. She thinks to herself that one word from Saraphina is enough to send shivers of fear through her body. but she also realizes she cannot remain silent and that she must overcome this deep-rooted fear. She gathers her courage and thinks that if she speaks confidently as she just did, she will be able to continue her challenge to Saraphina. In the midst of this confrontation, the maid Anie suddenly bursts into the room, panting, shouting that a response has arrived, which strikes both ladies with amazement. The maid explains that a letter has arrived from Lady Claudius. Lariette freezes in her place in a state of shock, unable to believe what she hears. Lariette wonders if it's real. The maid confirms that the Duke's family sent a carriage and that it is definitely a formal invitation. Lariette orders her to start preparing immediately. Saraphina hears the name Lady Claudius and wonders in confusion what is happening. Lariette tells her that an invitation has come from the lady, but Saraphina responds with disdain, asking her not to joke with her, adding there is no reason for Lariette to receive an invitation she herself didn't receive. Saraphina realizes that Lariette's reaction to the invitation was immediate, wondering about the reason for this sudden interest, then remembers the maid said, "A response," asking her sharply what she sent to the lady to receive an invitation in return. Lariette notices that Saraphina's reaction is stronger than she expected, wondering to herself about the reason for her exaggerated interest in Lady Claudius. She thinks that Saraphina's demand to know the details of her private life is exaggerated even between friends. Then she asks Saraphina to leave, explaining she needs to prepare to meet the lady now. Saraphina is shocked by this rejection. Lariette orders her maid to escort the guest out. The maid responds immediately. While she is about to leave, Saraphina turns to Lariette and tells her she is very worried about her, wondering sarcastically if the sickness has affected her mind. Lariette responds with a confident smile, telling her that who knows, perhaps her mind has become clearer than ever. The maid offers to escort Lady Lopez to her carriage, ending the tense situation. Once she closes the door behind her, Lariette sighs in relief, wondering in amazement if she just kicked Saraphina out. Realizing this is the first time she's done so, she holds the invitation with overwhelming happiness, thinking to herself that this feeling of victory is absolutely wonderful. The Anie family carriage arrives at the Duke Claudius's magnificent palace, where it is officially received. Lariette looks at her reflection in the mirror, wondering if her appearance is suitable, thinking the lady must have invited her because her letter gained her admiration. She hopes the lady doesn't think she is eccentric, then advances toward the room where she will meet her. When the doors open, she freezes in her place, seeing Lady Claudius for the first time. Lariette thinks to herself that she read countless novels in her life, but never had her heart beat this fast for a single character. Evangelene Claudius smiles, confirming her identity, asking if she is Lady Anie. Lariette thinks she is beautiful to the point her heart almost stops. Lariette is struck with extreme confusion, trying to greet her, but finds difficulty pronouncing words, so she bows before her in silence. Evangelene asks her to sit. Lariette responds immediately and thanks her. Evangelene apologizes for inviting her so suddenly, asking if she was surprised. Lariette responds she doesn't feel surprised. Rather, she considers this invitation an honor for her. Lady Claudius feels relieved. Meanwhile, the maid serves tea, announcing it is Darjeeling tea and hoping it suits her taste. Lariette thinks to herself happily she loves this type of tea, which might mean their tastes are similar. The lady agrees, then surprises her by asking her to pass her cup to pour the tea for her herself, which strikes Lariette with extreme amazement. Lariette wonders in shock how a lady of such high standing can pour tea for a noble of lower rank like her, politely refusing the offer, asserting she is fine. Lady Claudius's expression suddenly changes, and after a moment of silence, she calls her Lady Anie, wondering to herself in a sharp tone if she was always this frustrating. Lariette is struck with confusion by this sudden shift in atmosphere, wondering in bewilderment what she means. Panic sweeps over her, wondering if she committed a mistake, guessing the reason must be something strange she wrote in the letter she sent while drunk. But Lady Claudius, ignoring her hesitation, decides that since she doesn't take the cup, she will go ahead and serve her herself, adding that pouring tea is not a difficult task. While pouring tea, the lady decries Lariette's sudden behavior and her belittling of herself, explaining that based on her letter, she thought she was a bold young lady. Then she ends her talk, inviting her to drink tea and offering her a piece of Madeleine cake to taste. Lariette realizes to herself the lady is right, and that she just spoke as if she were indeed lower in rank. She reflects on her life, concluding she spent her whole life being bullied and exploited until acting with extreme caution and fear became a deep-rooted habit in her. When she sips the tea, she realizes Lady Claudius treats her as a guest on completely equal footing. She is overwhelmed with feelings of gratitude for this simple gesture of respect, wondering why she feels the urge to cry just for being treated kindly, then praises the tea, considering it excellent. The lady seems somewhat confused by this praise, answering with slight defensiveness that she indeed prepared the highest quality types. Lariat watches her and thinks her expressions are a bit sharp, but they are certainly not enough to describe her as villainous. Rather, she is actually closer to being kind. While the lady sips her tea, Lariat continues her thinking, finding it illogical that a character like her ends up locked in a convent on charges of harassing Saraphina. She remembers that the villainous acts attributed to Lady Claudius in the original novel seemed like a forced development of events, and that the starting point was always the rumors spread by Saraphina. She reaches a firm conviction as she eats the cake that the more she thought about it, it seemed Saraphina was the real villainess, and that this is a great injustice against the one supposed to be the novel's heroine. Here, Lady Claudius brings her back to the core of the subject, reminding her she mentioned in her letter that she knows a way to restore her reputation. Lariat confirms she indeed said that. Lady Claudius asks her directly and with a serious gaze to tell her what that way is. Lariat is confused for a moment, thinking to herself she thought the idea was just a ridiculous fantasy that occurred to her while drunk, but she soon regains her confidence, smiling and thinking that this feeling of ridiculousness started to fade, and that the more she talks with the lady, the more she sees the possibility of her plan's success. Then she announces with a bright smile that the way is for her to become her friend, and that this is the means that will enable them together to free themselves from the constraints of being mere secondary characters. Lady Claudius is surprised by this unexpected offer, wondering in confusion if she means they become friends. Lariat confirms the matter, explaining the reason is the existence of a common enemy between them. Then she asks permission to talk about the rumors spreading about her in high society, considering this matter necessary before entering the core of the subject. Lady Claudius agrees with a confident expression, giving her permission to say what she wishes. Lariat thinks to herself she thought the lady was so arrogant she wouldn't care about rumors, but it seems she was actually annoyed by them. Lariat begins to narrate what is said, explaining that people claim she is so arrogant she looks at everyone with disdain, and that this is the reason she doesn't mingle with others. Extreme confusion appears on Lady Claudius, who tries to deny the matter, then soon composes herself in an attempt to save face. She retreats from her position and asks Lariat to forget the matter, claiming it is nothing to mention, while Lariat thinks to herself that her cat-like reaction makes her look more friendly than the novel described her. Lariat continues explaining her plan, explaining that if she took a friend and showed the world she got along well with her, her reputation would naturally improve. She adds that if she is seen getting along with a noble of lower rank like her without any barriers, people will find it easier to approach her. Lady Claudius asks with interest about the identity of this common enemy she speaks of, while Lariat thinks to herself that the time has come to cast the bait. Lariat reveals her suspicions, saying she thinks the lady is currently falling victim to Saraphina's schemes, which strikes the lady with extreme shock. Lady Claudius explodes in anger and strikes her fist on the table, confirming her words are true, complaining that there must be a limit to how much Saraphina manipulates people and spreads false rumors. She rises from her place, elaborating in her anger, describing how Saraphina pretends to be kind and weak, then hides in the background to manipulate everyone, then asks Lariat if that woman has dumped annoying tasks on her too. Lariat feels happy, thinking it's lucky the lady has already noticed Saraphina's atrocities at this early stage, confirming to her she suffered from the same thing. The lady adds that she frankly thought Lariat's eyes were glued to the soles of her feet, because she was always keeping her head down and doing nothing but chasing Lady Lopez's shadow. She wonders sarcastically if Saraphina has a weakness against her, or if her back hurts from so much bowing, while Lariat thinks her bones are about to break from the intensity of the situation. Then the lady returns to the core of the subject, explaining that if the common enemy is Lady Lopez, she wants to know whether Lariat will not deal with that woman anymore. Lariat answers firmly, confirming she has no intention of acting kindly with Saraphina in the future because she treated her as something less than a friend. She explains that if she, who was practically a maid to Saraphina, starts befriending the lady, people won't only wonder why she cut ties with Saraphina, but they will also speculate why she chose to resort to her. Specifically, she asserts that the mere accumulation of these rumors will constitute a strong blow to Saraphina, and that as they continue to undermine her image, the time will come when Saraphina trips and makes a mistake. Lady Claudius thinks about the matter for a moment, then decides it's not a bad strategy at all. But she pauses, rising toward the balcony, reminding Lariat that this is their first meeting. She wonders seriously if it's true that she came here immediately after cutting her relationship with Lady Lopez, whom she was closely associated with, explaining she lacks the necessary conviction to move with her based on that. Lariat understands her caution, thinking her reaction isn't surprising at all. She realizes that since Saraphina is slowly destroying the lady's personal relationships, her very presence might seem like a trap, but she rises confidently, telling her not to worry if she suspects she might be a spy because she can easily dispel this doubt. She advances toward her, announcing she can prove to her, right here and now, that she desires to cut ties with that girl. She extends her hand toward her, suggesting that if the lady is still unconvinced, they can be temporary friends. Lady Claudius looks at her, thinking about the temporary friendship offer, while Lariette smiles, waiting for her response. Meanwhile, a carriage arrives at Claudius' palace. One of the servants tells his master they are about to arrive, pointing out it has been a long time since his arrival at such an hour. His master, who turns out to be Duke Dietrich von Claudius, answers him that one needs days like this from time to time, and that the state council meeting ended early. Upon entering, he glimpses his sister Eva standing with another young lady, wondering in confusion about her identity. He watches them from afar, wondering if she is a new friend, thinking that seeing Eva communicating with someone else is rare. Then a light smile is drawn on his face, thinking to himself that it has indeed been a long time. Back at the balcony, Lady Claudius reflects on the transformation that occurred in Lariette, thinking how she was belittling herself moments ago. And here she is now, extending her hand to her with confidence. Lariette confirms her first impression, thinking to herself that Lady Claudius is indeed as bold a young lady as she expected. However, Lady Claudius pulls her hand away from Lariette's, then asks her how she plans to prove her desire to cut ties with Saraphina. Lariette thinks that the lady is extremely cautious, but this caution also means she is the perfect partner to overthrow Saraphina. Lariette reassures the lady that the matter is not difficult, explaining that she will take care of the talking and all the lady has to do is listen. Then she takes a step toward her seat. She suggests that they sit down again, because the story she is about to tell will be somewhat long. Lariette begins to narrate what happened, and Lady Claudius is shocked when she tells her that Lady Lopez spilled the tea intentionally and that her shoelaces were also tied together, confirming to her that all of this happened just a few days ago. Lady Claudius's anger flares up, thinking to herself that Lady Lopez is more malicious than she thought, wondering how she could deceive a friend in such a way. Lariette pretends to be agitated, explaining that she could no longer endure this situation, which is why she sent her the letter, since they are in similar positions, and she asks rhetorically what other way she could have proven her sincerity. She thinks to herself that all she has to do is expose Saraphina's bad deeds, using what she called the restroom bonding skill, where people always grow closer when they disparage a common enemy. Suddenly, Lady Claudius grabs her hand and calls her name, to which Lariette responds with confusion and amazement. The lady tells her that she might be a bit frustrated, but she hasn't made any mistake. Rather, she made the right decision by cutting ties, and she asks her not to waste her time on someone like Saraphina anymore. Lariette feels grateful for this consolation and thanks her, but she wonders to herself if this gesture means she has accepted her as a friend. Lady Claudius quickly pulls her hand back in a state of embarrassment, explaining that she agrees to be her friend temporarily, but they shouldn't misunderstand. They are not full friends yet, making Lariette think she looks like a cat that saw a cucumber. Lariette smiles happily, replying that even a temporary friendship is an honor for her and that she is very happy with her acceptance. Lady Claudius explains the reason for her decision, clarifying that seeing her reveal all the bad things about Lady Lopez without hesitation made her certain she was an ally, and admits that, as Lariette said, she was feeling some impatience regarding restoring her reputation. Lariette is surprised by this confession, thinking that this great lady did not seem this way in the original novel. The lady continues her talk, explaining that because of those strange rumors, she was walking on eggshells inside and outside the palace. She adds that it's not just her, but the entire Duke's family feels uncomfortable because of these rumors, as her dignity is the pride of the Duke's family in the end. Even her brother threatened to cut her allowance if the rumors continued, making Lariette think in shock that this is an extremely petty act. But she stops suddenly upon realizing something. She wonders if this is the path of the original story, where the troublemaker sister is eventually kicked out of society, realizing that what was written in a few lines in the original novel has begun to unfold before her this way, and that the progression of events might follow the original plot even if the characters differ. She decides that she must try to remember the events of the original story well. Meanwhile, Lady Claudius elaborates, saying she assumes there is a reason for the rumors to appear this way, admitting that her personality is a bit sharp, sensitive, and prickly. Lariette interrupts her kindly, reminding her that she was the one who just told her not to belittle herself. She expresses her deep admiration for her, saying she has completely fallen in love with her wonderful personality, and that she is so great she wished she could be like her. Lady Claudius is greatly surprised, asking if she means her, explaining that everyone tries to stay away from her. In fact, they tremble whenever she says anything. Lariette denies this, asserting that it's only because they haven't had a real conversation with her before, and that seeing her this way makes her want to know more about her. Then she suggests that in celebration of their temporary friendship, the lady should tell her things about herself, to which the lady asks what kind of things she means. Lariette specifies things she likes or things she wants from her. Lady Claudius thinks about the matter, repeating the phrase, "things I like and things I want." Then she makes her decision, declaring that first they must do something about Lariette's vulgar clothes, telling her coldly that with this taste in fashion, she is unqualified to be her temporary friend, making Lariette shout in shock that she wore her best. Lariette thinks in horror that the lady must be joking, remembering how she chose her brightest clothes and even changed 10 times before coming here. Lady Claudius sighs, saying there is no way around it, and that she will recommend a salon she knows, asking her to listen carefully. Lady Claudius adds that she will take her on a walking tour, admitting she has always wanted to stroll in a garden with someone her age just once. Lariette expresses her overwhelming happiness at this suggestion and confirms she would love that very much. The entire day passes while they talk. Lariette expresses her great enjoyment of the time she spent, so Lady Claudius suggests she stay for dinner, especially since her brother has returned early. But Lariette apologizes kindly, explaining she cannot impose herself any further, hinting that she doesn't wish to meet Saraphina's future partner, and asserts that just talking to her was a gift that made her day special. Lady Claudius stops suddenly, telling her that the word gift reminded her of something, and that she has something to give her, which strikes Lariette with surprise. She asks her to wait for a moment and not leave yet, asserting she will be right back, and Lariette agrees to wait. While Lady Claudius leaves, Lariette stands waiting, but she is surprised by a voice calling her. She finds Lady Claudius telling her that she had indeed settled for listening the whole time without saying a single word. Lariette answers in confusion that she had answered all her questions. The lady clarifies that she means her personal preferences, expressing her frustration that she didn't share anything about herself. She adds that it's better for both to know about each other, and advises her not to settle for meeting others' desires as she used to do with Lady Lopez. Rather, they must do the things she likes as well. Lariette is touched by these words, and Lady Claudius concludes that they are, after all, temporary friends. Lady Claudius leaves to bring what she has, and Lariette remains standing, reflecting on the situation. She thinks that in this life she has finally found someone to tell her these words. She admits to herself that her heart has been beating fast for a while, moved by this new relationship built on mutual respect and appreciation, not a relationship where she is exploited by others. Emotions overwhelm her, and she feels that her eyes are about to fill with tears. She tries to compose herself, scolding herself for crying over something simple like this, then begins to search for her handkerchief, but she stops suddenly when a manly voice interrupts her path, offering her a handkerchief. Lariette is surprised, realizing that this man is... Lariette recalls in her memory the details of the novel titled Beloved Saraphina, remembering that the character descriptions in it were brief and direct. However, the most detailed descriptions were reserved for the heroine Saraphina, followed by longer and more precise descriptions for Lady Evangelene. She also remembers there was another character who always received lengthy descriptions upon appearing. She realizes that this character is the male lead of the novel, Dietrich, the man standing before her now. She thinks he is so handsome that he can be recognized immediately without the need for any introductions. The Duke calls her my lady, so she wakes from her reverie and realizes she was staring at him unconsciously. She answers him in a hurry and takes the handkerchief from him, thanking him. Then she apologizes to him, explaining she didn't mean to stare, but she was worried that something bad had happened inside the palace. She justifies her tears by saying she was deeply moved by the warm words her lady said to her, shedding tears. The Duke wonders in surprise if she was moved by Eva's words. Lariette notices his unexpected reaction, then remembers that because of all the false rumors, he felt disappointed in Evangelene. She concludes that this misunderstanding that kept accumulating between the siblings is what eventually led to that tragic end in the original story, and it's no wonder he reacts this way. Lariette decides to herself that this is not right, and that she must at least defend the lady's reputation, telling the Duke that Lady Claudius expressed her desire for them to do the things she likes together. She continues her talk enthusiastically, explaining that she recommended a salon that suits her, and even poured her tea herself. She adds that she listened to her stories with interest and empathized with her, while the Duke looks at her thoughtfully as he listens to her passionate defense of his sister. The Duke bursts out laughing and apologizes, explaining that he finds his sister's actions cute, concluding that since she is doing things she doesn't usually do, she must have truly liked Lady Anie. Lariette is surprised by his words, wondering in confusion about those things she doesn't usually do, and realizes at that moment that he doesn't feel any suspicion toward his younger sister. Her face turns red with embarrassment, thinking that the Duke said that because of his sister's personality, realizing she overreacted for no reason. She feels extreme embarrassment from her exaggerated reaction in their first meeting and scolds herself for it. The Duke smiles kindly and announces he will leave now, explaining it is improper for a man to intrude on a women's gathering. Then he bows politely and tells her he will greet her properly next time. After he leaves, Lariat thinks to herself with admiration, considering him a handsome man with high morals, and that seeing someone with such beautiful features after her suffering with Gregor is a relief. Then she wakes from her reverie and remembers the handkerchief he gave her. At that moment, Lady Claudius returns carrying a basket full of red roses, telling her they are roses from their garden, asking her to take them. Lariat thanks her, expressing her luck at receiving such a beautiful basket, and apologizes for not preparing anything in return. Lady Claudius reassures her that it doesn't require all this, and that these roses are of a luxurious breed and will look beautiful in her room. So Lariat promises she will transfer them to a vase and change their water every day. Then Lady Claudius suddenly changes the subject, asking Lady Anie to wait for her at her house at 10 in the morning the next day, which strikes her with surprise. She explains that since she recommended salons to her, they must go shopping together, then sharply criticizes her clothes, saying that even her grandmother wouldn't wear such dresses, making Lariat realize her clothes are that bad. She adds that friends shop and eat delicious food together and asks her not to feel down because they will buy her some clothes first. Happiness overwhelms Lariat, and her heart beats fast as she wonders to herself if the lady is asking her out on a date. She agrees immediately, asserting she won't feel down and that she is already excited to spend time with her. Lady Claudius smiles, and Lariat tells her they will do whatever they want tomorrow, just the two of them. When it is time to leave, Lariat waves to her enthusiastically from her carriage, telling her she wishes her a good night's sleep. After the carriage leaves, Lady Claudius remains standing, recalling Lariat's enthusiastic words, then gives a slight smile. She thinks to herself that Lady Anie is a truly interesting character. Later that evening, the Claudius siblings sit for dinner. The Duke asks her about the friend she made today. Evangelene responds sharply that she isn't a friend, just a temporary friend, and that he wouldn't understand. Her brother smiles and tells her she looked so happy he could hear her laughter from his room. She tries to deny it in confusion, claiming she laughed because the story was funny and her voice wasn't that loud. The Duke comments that it's amazing someone was able to make the great Evangelene laugh, and asks if that was the young lady from the Anie family who sent the letter. Then his expression turns serious, pointing out he heard Lady Anie is close to Lady Lopez, whom Evangelene doesn't like. Evangelene responds that she doesn't like Lady Lopez, but that doesn't necessarily mean she hates everyone around her, adding that Lady Anie was a very decent person. The Duke comments that this is high praise, concluding she must have truly liked her and they have already become close, making Evangelene explode in anger and shout at him that she is Lady Claudius and she doesn't make friendship so easily. The Duke gives a sarcastic smile and reluctantly agrees, commenting he will go along with her claim even though he heard her laughter all day long. Evangelene feels very annoyed by her brother's teasing, thinking how annoying he is. He asks her to calm her angry facial expressions. Then she changes the subject, reminding him she has an appointment with Lady Anie the next day, and cleverly moves to talk about her allowance, explaining that as the only princess in the empire, she cannot ask Lady Anie to pay. The Duke understands her hint immediately and asks her directly if she is asking him to forget about cutting her allowance. She answers in confusion that it is something like that. He looks at her seriously and tells her he will have to monitor her behavior to see what he decides, taking advantage of the situation to impose good behavior on her. Evangelene grumbles at his pettiness but pretends indifference, saying she has enough for tomorrow anyway. The Duke clarifies he doesn't intend to cut her allowance completely, just monitor her closely. She turns her face away from him in childish anger, declaring she doesn't want to talk to a strict brother like him. But he continues to tease her affectionately, saying he loves her too. She explodes in anger and shouts at him to finish his food and stop annoying her. After dinner ends, the Duke reflects on the situation, realizing that Ava's sacrifice of her pride to make such a request must mean something significant. He concludes that Ava is indeed treating her new friend well, and that this friend has influenced her so much she made her shed tears of emotion. Then he whispers the name Lady Anie, and thinks to himself that he'd better remember this name well, a smile of curiosity and interest drawn on his face. The next morning, a luxurious carriage arrives in front of the Anie family home, where Lariat is waiting, wondering to herself if Lady Claudius has arrived. She is surprised by Lady Claudius's arrival at 9 o'clock, a full hour before their scheduled time. Lady Claudius justifies her early arrival by saying she finished her preparations early, trying to hide her excitement. Lariat expresses her concern that her early arrival might be tiring for her, but Lady Claudius explodes in anger, vehemently denying she feels tired. She elaborates in her defense, asserting she didn't stay up all night in anticipation of their outing together, asking Lariette not to make such assumptions. Lariette realizes from her exaggerated reaction that she was so excited she couldn't sleep, looking at her with an understanding smile. Then she decides to go along with her, telling her she understands and suggests they set off in anticipation. Lady Claudius continues to deny her excitement, wondering if Lariette doesn't believe her. In the carriage, Evangelene persists in her insistence that she didn't stay up all night. Lariette answers her calmly that she believes her. Of course, Evangelene asks suspiciously if she truly doesn't believe her. Lariette responds kindly that she decided to believe everything she says. The two ladies arrive at a luxury fashion store. Lady Claudius asks its owner to show them everything in the store from beginning to end. The store owner responds immediately and confirms she will bring her everything she asks for, while Lariette stands confused. Lariette is dazzled by the clothes on display as soon as they enter, assuming Lady Claudius wants to take a look at what suits her first. But Lady Claudius turns to her, drawing her attention to the beauty of the displayed clothes, asserting that all this is for her. Lariette tries to be a good friend, telling her she is absolutely certain that any outfit Lady Claudius chooses will look wonderful on her. Lady Claudius stops her with a sharp look, seriously reminding her that they came here to buy clothes for her, meaning Lariette. Lariette tries to object in confusion, asserting she doesn't need all these clothes. Lady Claudius explains to her calmly that it's not just for her, but for the days she will spend with her, in a reference to her desire for her friend to look her best. Then she pushes her gently toward the clothes, telling her there is no need for long explanations and that she must try on the clothes the store owner presents to her. After a few moments, Lady Claudius sits reading a book waiting for Lariette. One of the servants approaches calling her name. The store owner tells Lady Claudius she has finished preparing several options of outfits suitable for Lady Anie. The first look is displayed. A pure and elegant white dress with earrings designed in a collaboration between Chelsea Anie and Madame Christiansen, a white scarf as an addition, and a small handbag. Then the second look is displayed. A dress that highlights the freshness of spring, with special and limited cherry blossom decorations and a ribbon of the finest silk designed by Madame Christiansen. Finally, the third look is displayed. A cherry blossom-colored dress matching the color of Lariette's eyes, with pink diamond earrings, a hair accessory, a necklace, and a classic handbag. Lady Claudius seems satisfied, thinking Lariette looks much better in the new clothes, then orders these clothes along with what she chose to be sent to her house, sparking shock in Lariette, who wonders if there are other clothes besides these. The store owner confirms the matter, then Lady Claudius asks Lariette, who is wearing the pink dress, to look at herself in the mirror. She asks her if she has now realized how beautiful she is in her natural state. Lariette is touched by this compliment, admitting to herself that when she dresses up like this, she indeed looks decent. But soon worry about the cost of these expensive clothes creeps into her, wondering if she can afford all this through her allowance fund dedicated to maintaining her dignity. She turns to the store owner hesitantly, asking if installment payments are possible or if she can remove some dresses. But this talk sparks Lady Claudius's intense anger. She shouts in Lariette's face, wondering if she thinks she'd make her pay for the dresses she chose herself. She clarifies she invested in her appearance so they would look wonderful together, and that there is no need to grovel this way, then orders the store owner to send today's purchase bill to the Duke's house. After she finished dressing her according to her taste, she announces with a confident smile that it is time to move to the next step. She reveals that this step is lunch at a luxury restaurant, pointing out it was very difficult to get a reservation there. Then she asks Lariette to follow her. Lariette finds herself in a state of confusion and happiness, wondering what she should do. She admits to herself she is starting to fall in love with Lady Claudius and hurries to catch up with her. Upon their arrival at the restaurant, Lariette is dazzled by its sophisticated atmosphere. Lady Claudius tells her the food is good too and will surely suit her taste. Lady Claudius asks Lariette to wait for her at a table by the window while she adjusts her makeup, telling her to order what she wishes. While Lariette sits alone, she observes the people around her and notices the happiness on their faces, enjoying the simple moments of daily life, like tasting delicious food with good company and laughing together. She realizes she is now able to enjoy these moments too, and holds the menu to choose carefully, as this is her first meal with Lady Claudius. But this quiet moment is suddenly interrupted by hearing a voice calling her by her nickname, Lari. She turns to find Saraphina standing behind her with Gregor, wondering if this is really her. Her happiness collapses in a moment, thinking bitterly that no sooner had she lived a happy moment than problems appeared. She laments this unexpected appearance of Saraphina, describing her as the noose that tightens around the necks of secondary characters with persistence. Saraphina pretends it's a coincidence, claiming she saw her back and wondered if it was her, then comments on her new outfit. Lariat answers that her old clothes seemed a bit vulgar. Saraphina's eyes narrow and she comments on the expensive bag, then asks maliciously if these aren't the clothes she chose for her. Lariat corrects the information, explaining those outfits are so old even a grandmother wouldn't wear them, which is why she decided it was better to buy new clothes. She adds that since she started, she decided to clean out her entire wardrobe, then asks Saraphina if this pleases her. Saraphina is struck with shock, wondering in anger to herself how Lariat, who looked great even in the rags she threw at her, dares to elevate herself suddenly, her confusion reaching the point of wondering if she caught rabies. Then Saraphina stops suddenly, realizing upon looking closely that Lariat's bag and dress belong to Madame Christiansen's sophisticated designs. A sense of shock and envy takes hold of her, wondering to herself how Lariat managed to obtain these luxury possessions she hadn't dreamed of owning. Saraphina turns to Gregor and orders him to carry her bag, so he advances toward Lariat. He begins addressing her by name. Then he looks at her with a shy gaze, naively wondering if she adorned herself in all this beauty, for him alone to impress him. This talk sparks shock in both Lariat and Saraphina alike. Lariat wonders in herself with disdain how he can show such shyness. Gregor interprets the situation as an attempt by Lariat to appease him after she ignored him for days, and decides he might condescend to join her in appreciation of her efforts. But Lariat cuts this illusion coldly, telling Gregor she has company and asking him not to misunderstand and to move on, thinking to herself how shallow he is to change his attitude as soon as she dresses up a bit. Gregor is surprised by her reply, protesting that he is her fiancé. Lariat reminds him with sharp calmness she sent the engagement annulment letter long ago, wondering why he insists on this title, then orders him to leave unless he came to accept the annulment. Gregor refuses to leave and grabs her arm violently, wondering how she can end the conversation unilaterally, and asks her to stop messing around and take back the papers. Lariat tries to slip away from him, but he tells her he has burned those papers and insists on talking to her again. She demands he let go, asserting she can send new papers. He threatens her. She will regret her deed, wondering sarcastically who would marry her besides him. This clamor draws the attention of the restaurant patrons who begin to look at them. Lariat feels humiliated, thinking she wanted to have the same casual attention Saraphina receives, but she has now become just a scene everyone watches. She laments to herself she only wanted to laugh and talk with her friends like normal people. In the end, she feels she has ruined another day. While Gregor continues to harass her, demanding she cancel the annulment immediately, his talk is cut by a firm voice ordering him to stop. Lady Claudius appears, having just returned, and addresses Viscount Gusto, coldly, expressing her appreciation if he left her friend alone. Astonishment strikes both Gregor and Saraphina, who whispers the name Lady Claudius in a state of shock. Lady Claudius advances and confirms to him she heard Lady Anie has sent the engagement annulment letter, thus he is no longer her fiancé. Then she asks him sarcastically if he doesn't have anything better to do than chase someone who rejected him, or if he still has some lingering attachment. Then she orders him in a sharp tone to stay away from Lady Anie's sight and stop hanging around her in this pitiable way. Gregor stands shocked and unable to respond. She asks him to step away because she wants to eat in peace. Saraphina intervenes and asks Gregor to leave, and they comply and leave the place. After they leave, Lady Claudius returns to her seat and invites Lariat to a salon she will host soon. Lariat is surprised by this invitation, wondering in confusion about a salon hosted by the Duke Claudius's family. This salon is known as being held every year to invite and support rising artists and writers, and is considered the most glamorous salon in the empire. It has been customary for the Duchess to host it generation after generation, but since the current Duke is unmarried, his sister is the one hosting it now. Lariat remembers at that moment that Saraphina wanted very much to go to this salon. Lady Claudius notices that Lady Lopez and Viscount Gusto haven't left yet, so she asks Saraphina directly if she has something to say to her. Saraphina grabs Gregor's hand and answers in the negative, asserting they are about to leave. Lariat wonders at their retreat without a fight, describing the scene as rare, but Lady Claudius confirms to her coldly that this will become a common scene from now on. Lariat thanks her and asks Lady Claudius if she invited her intentionally so Saraphina would hear, but the lady clarifies she was going to send her an invitation anyway, and she just chose the right moment. Lariat apologizes for the scene she caused, especially since Lady Claudius had allocated time for her from her busy schedule. But Lady Claudius rejects the apology, asserting what happened wasn't a scene, it was an opportunity. She adds that she wanted to put those annoying people in their place quickly, and that she actually enjoyed the matter and found it refreshing. Lariat understands, thinking to herself happily that as long as she is with the lady, her happiness can expand at any time. Then Lady Claudius asks Lariat about her favorite food. The latter answers she will eat anything her lady likes, so the lady teases her, wondering if she intends to imitate her, then suggests apples. To which Lariat answers enthusiastically she likes them very much, striking the lady's admiration. Meanwhile, outside, Gregor was in a state of panic, asking Saraphina what he should do, expressing his fear that Lariat really intends to separate from him, and that without this marriage he will lose his title. Saraphina orders him coldly to shut up for a moment so she can think. He immediately apologizes in confusion. Saraphina observes the situation from afar, wondering how the quiet Lariat sits with the lady as if they were close. Then she links the events together, concluding that Lariat's changed attitude toward her in the last few days was because of Lady Claudius, and that she has found someone to support her now. She decides this situation won't continue, and she must talk to Lariat again. After a while, at her home, Lariat receives a letter from Lady Claudius, asking her if she slept well and whether she is wearing the clothes she bought for her. She adds she trusts she has gotten rid of those poor clothes Lady Lopez gifted her because they weren't chosen with good intentions. Then she asks her about her visiting time, reminding her of the friendship contract they signed and the necessity of adhering to it, claiming it's not because she misses her, just to execute the contract. Lariat smiles, thinking to herself how cute she is and unable to express her feelings sincerely. Lady continues in her letter, asking her to wear the sky blue dress when she comes, because it suits her perfectly. She advises her to use the umbrella they chose together because the daytime sun is strong, and to tidy her flying hair that looks like ghosts, because she cannot befriend ghosts. She tells her to write in her reply her coming time, or come directly without a reply. Then she concludes the letter with the phrase, "I will be waiting." So Lariat reflects on the letter and whispers the name, Evangelene. Happiness overwhelms Lariat, embracing the letter, thinking about the existence of a friend who misses her and waits for her, expressing her deep love for this feeling. But she stops suddenly, remembering Lady Claudius must be very busy preparing for the salon, and that is the reason for her not communicating with her. Then she thinks she might have invited her despite her busyness, and decides she'll be happy to help her if she needs her. Since the lady has invited her, she decides to start preparing in a good mood. After she finished wearing the dress, her maid tells her she is ready, but she adds Lady Lopez has come to visit during her preparation, asking her what she should do. Lariat grumbles, reminding her maid she ordered her to send Saraphina back without asking any questions. The maid tells her mistress Lady Lopez has arrived accompanied by a companion, and she has seated them in the drawing room for now. Lariat asks about that companion's identity. The maid hesitates before revealing the companion is Baroness Pinturner, striking Lariat with extreme shock, her eyes widening in bewilderment. Lariat immediately realizes this lady is Gregor's aunt, the character who is the reason for her misery. Meanwhile, in the drawing room, the Baroness expresses her distaste for the light tea smell. Saraphina agrees, considering the service negligent, and suggests they have tea together later. The Baroness agrees immediately. Saraphina continues to play the victim role, thanking the Baroness for accompanying her, claiming Lariat has started acting coldly toward her recently. This sparks the Baroness's anger, who wonders what right Lariat has to take such an arrogant stance, describing her as rude. She asserts that as an adult, she cannot remain silent after Lariat dared send the annulment letter to her nephew. Lariat observes the situation from the door, sighed, realizing Saraphina brought this tyrannical lady to her home intentionally to annoy her from every possible angle. She recalls in her memory how Baroness Pinturner was the one who made her life hell in the past, always comparing her to Saraphina and forcing her to bow her head to her. She confirms Saraphina brought her knowing full well how much she fears her, realizing she'll have to meet her as long as she came. Lariat wonders why Saraphina went to this length to see her, then advances toward the drawing room. Saraphina immediately rises, welcoming her with affected enthusiasm, calling, "Larry!" She claims the aunt missed her, so she brought her with her, while hiding her true intentions. Lariat faces her coldly, reminding her she asked her not to come, and that bringing guests puts her in a difficult position. Saraphina becomes flustered and pretends to be sorry, claiming she didn't mean it. But the Baroness intervenes to defend Saraphina, taking responsibility for her coming, then attacks Lariat, accusing her of publicly insulting her nephew in addition to sending the annulment letter. She scolds her for her lack of modesty as a noblewoman, sighing in despair. She continues her lecture that a woman should be kind and gentle like Saraphina. Lariat replies defiantly, suggesting she engage Saraphina to Gregor then. She asserts she repeatedly stated her desire to separate from Gregor, and making Saraphina, whom she adores, a wife for her nephew seems a wonderful choice. The Baroness explodes in anger, accusing her of insolence instead of being grateful for her advice. Saraphina intervenes with fake tears, ordering Lariat to apologize to her aunt immediately, accusing her of slandering her and Gregor, claiming her actions confuse her. But Lariat faces her calmly, reminding her Gregor was more faithful to her than to her, and she witnessed all that and claims confusion now. When Saraphina tries to justify they are childhood friends, Lariat interrupts sharply, reminding her she was her childhood friend too. Lariat declares a true friend doesn't treat her friend as a tool, and that true friendship is based on mutual respect and caring for the other, which is embodied in a relationship where the friend asks her friend what she likes. She adds she never asked her about such matters, and asserts that since Lady Claudius respects her, she will become someone worthy of this respect, and she won't fear such situations anymore. Then she tells her final decision, that she no longer intends to be her friend, asking her to go back where she came from. Saraphina is struck with shock and staggers backward. The Baroness rushes to support her, asking anxiously if she is okay. Then she embraces her and shouts in Lariat's face, reminding her Saraphina is the one who saved her life, wondering how she can be this ungrateful. Saraphina continues her attempt to control the situation, asking the Baroness to calm down, claiming Lariat says that out of anger only and doesn't mean what she says. Then she addresses Lariat with fake tears, apologizing for her feeling this way, claiming she did her best for her. She continues her manipulation, hinting that her closeness to Lady Claudius is what made her look negligent in her eyes, promising she'll try harder. But soon her style changes, whispering in her ear in a malicious tone, wondering if she really trusts Lady Claudius. Lariat asks in confusion what she means. Saraphina begins to spread her poison, explaining cautiously that Lady Claudius is famous for her difficult personality, and there is a reason for her always being alone even among young ladies. Then she holds her hands to increase her words' effect, reminding her of rumors saying Lady Claudius doesn't treat lower nobles as humans. She poses a malicious scenario, wondering if the lady chose her just to mock her in the salon, adding there are many rumors about her befriending people then disposing of them later. She concludes her talk claiming worry, saying seeing her suffer alone in the salon will hurt her too, then offers to accompany her there. But Lariat realizes at that moment the full truth, giving a light smile, having understood everything. She confirms all this acting aimed at one thing only, which is obtaining an invitation to the salon. Lariat thanks Saraphina mockingly for her worry. Saraphina becomes optimistic that her plan worked. But Lariat rejects her request with a smile, explaining she is just an invitee and doesn't have the authority to bring a guest with her. When Saraphina tries to insist she can talk to the lady, Lariat interrupts sharply, rejecting the matter. Then she moves away from her, using Saraphina's previous words against her, reminding her she described her as just a laughingstock, and someone like her cannot ask a favor from Lady Claudius. She adds she'll be lucky if she doesn't provoke her anger, then asks sarcastically if she agrees. Then she directs her talk to the shocked Baroness, considering she is the most capable of getting an invitation. She hints that although the invitation might not reach Baroness Pinturner, since the Baroness cherishes Saraphina so much, she might find some way. The Baroness explodes in anger, calling her arrogant, while Saraphina tries to calm her. Then Lariat puts Saraphina in a critical corner, telling her if she's really worried about her, she should get an invitation and come to the salon herself, asking her if she can do this much for her. Saraphina accepts the challenge reluctantly, confirming she'll do her best. After they leave, Lariat wishes them a safe journey from behind the door. She turns to Saraphina with a warning look, telling her she must do her best to survive too. Thinking to herself she is determined to shatter her mask. Days later, Lariat arrives at Claudius' palace, where she introduces herself to the lady of the palace. Lady Claudius welcomes her, pointing out she came personally instead of sending a reply, and invites her to sit. She evaluates Lariat's look, giving her clothes a passing grade, but deducts 3 points from her formal greeting, making her overall rating average. Lariat wonders why. Lady Claudius explains they have become friends now, and there is no need for these formalities between them. Lariat is touched by this kind reason, promising she'll be more comfortable next time. The lady asks her to stop looking at her with those worry-laden looks, and Lariat agrees enthusiastically. Then the lady offers her lemon cake, asserting she'll order something different if she doesn't like it. Lariat thanks her for her care and asserts she loves it. While Lariat tastes the dessert, she feels all the tension she suffered previously beginning to fade, enjoying her best break ever. Lariat notices Lady Claudius looks very comfortable, as if she is unconcerned at all with the salon preparations, but she feels something is there. Lariat advances cautiously, asking her lady if there is anything she can help with. Lady Claudius asks her in return what kind of help she means. Lariat clarifies she knows only 2 weeks remain until the salon, and since the lady is the hostess, she wanted to offer help. Lady Claudius replies briefly, realizing her intent, but Lady Claudius soon ignores the offer, asking her to forget the matter, explaining her brother will likely handle everything himself anyway. She expresses her feeling of discomfort, as it seems he exhausts himself every time just to allow her a chance to rest. Her worried face is reflected in the teacup, adding she feels she burdens him with more work while he is already busy. Lariat realizes at that moment the lady is worried about the Duke. Lariat recalls in her memory the Duke is indeed one of the busiest people in the Empire. He is responsible for managing the vast duchy and its people, leading countless followers, overseeing various businesses, in addition to maintaining relations with other nobles and the imperial family. Lariat reflects how he can handle this amazing schedule with a smile, concluding that, as mentioned in the novel, he must be handling a crazy agenda at this moment. Lariat suggests that if it burdens her, why doesn't she take this opportunity to look at the documents herself? Lady Claudius is surprised by this suggestion. Lariat confirms her offer, announcing she will help her with that. Lariat thinks she understands the Duke's desire to protect his sister, but sees that as a direct lineage character, the lady should know how to handle paperwork, adding that her understanding of how the Duke's house works is the only way she can gain confidence and secure her status. Most importantly, Lariat thinks they cannot allow her defeat before Saraphina. As happened in the original story, she remembers that in the latter half of the original novel, when the conflict between Saraphina and the lady peaked, a fraud incident occurred, where a merchant guild imported and sold luxury spices but exaggerated their cost to deceive nobles. Upon discovering the truth, she reported it to Saraphina, so the credit went to her, leading to her reputation rising significantly. Compared to Seraphina's achievement, the lady was stigmatized as incompetent. Lariat realizes this evaluation was unfair from the lady's perspective, as those spices were just an item within the gift list she received. But Seraphina's malicious whispers incited public opinion against her. She imagines how Seraphina was whispering that the lady might have bought the spices herself and claimed they were a gift, and that the future of the Duke's house looks bleak. Lady Claudius wonders in confusion whether she is capable of handling the matters her brother always took care of. Lariat's eyes shine with determination, thinking the time has come to turn the table on the truly incompetent person. Answering confidently, she certainly can. Then she reassures her that reviewing documents might seem strange at first, but she'll get used to the matter soon, adding she, moreover, will stand by her side. Lady Claudius looks at her moved. Lariat thinks about the titles given to the lady in the original story, such as the incompetent lady who knows only vanity. Then she extends her hand to her, asking her to trust her, vowing she'll shatter all those titles. After a while, Lady Claudius begins reviewing documents with Lariat's help, looking deeply focused. But soon exhaustion overcomes her and she falls on her desk. Lariat asks with a smile if she isn't used to reviewing documents. The lady confirms that. She suggests to the lady they start by checking one of the documents, drawing her attention that she doesn't think they need this large number of flower decorations. The lady asks why. Lariat explains there is a high probability flowers will interfere with the artwork's line of sight, and placing a large vase next to an artwork might distract attention from it. Lady Claudius agrees with her, finding her words logical. Lariat suggests in return removing vases and focusing more on lighting. Lady Claudius wonders about the meaning of the word lighting, so Lariat enthusiastically explains that she means consulting a technician to install additional lighting so that the artworks shine more brilliantly. Lady Claudius asks if they should request an increase in the budget allocated for lighting, but Lariat clarifies that if they redirect the cost allocated for flowers toward the lighting, the difference in the budget won't be significant. Amazement appears on Lady Claudius's face as she now understands the matter. Then Lariat continues her work, drawing her attention to another document. Lariat is dazzled by Lady Claudius's eyes, which radiate a desire to learn, thinking to herself how wonderful and kind she is. Lariat opens the window angrily, thinking to herself that describing such a lady as ignorant is absolute nonsense, and that both Saraphina and the novel's author are fools. Lady Claudius notices her and calls her name. She turns quickly, assuring her that it's nothing, then offers her help whenever she needs to review documents, asking her to contact her at any time. Lady Claudius is overjoyed, grabbing her hands and wondering if she could help her at other times as well, and not just today, her face turning red with embarrassment from her enthusiasm. She quickly composes herself, suggesting they review the current document first. Lariat watches her with a smile, thinking to herself how cute she is while still feeling embarrassed, and agrees with her. The two ladies sit and continue working, as Lariat examines the blueprints, item lists, and business partners, which are the only documents outsiders are permitted to view. Then she stops at the guest list, smiling with relief as she expected. She confirms that the names of Saraphina, Gusto, and the Pin-Turner family are not included on the list, sighing with relief, realizing they will at least be able to rest during the salon party period. Meanwhile, Duke Claudius arrives at the palace, looking exhausted. His servant suggests he head to his bedroom, which has been prepared, but the Duke refuses, explaining that he has other work he must review, asking for a cup of coffee, then ordering the documents related to the salon to be brought to his office. The servant tells him that Lady Claudius took the documents to her room to review them, and the Duke is surprised that his sister Eva was the one who did that. When the Duke reviews the documents later, he notices they have been meticulously sorted, and the additional notes provided are extremely detailed. He wonders in confusion what happened, as these are not documents Eva could prepare without practical experience. While she is sleeping at her desk from exhaustion, the Duke asks if she reviewed the documents alone. The servant answers him that Lady Anie, who visited her earlier, reviewed them with her. The Duke carries his sleeping sister in his arms while whispering the name Lady Anie. Then he places her in her bed, thinking that she went as far as looking for work to do. He strokes her hair tenderly, thinking that he had protected her and cared for her all this time so she wouldn't suffer. And now she is thinking of working in his place, which he finds impressive. Moreover, he notices that the documents are so well organized that he has little left to do. He decides he will skip the coffee, thinking that thanks to that lady, he will be able to sleep early tonight. The next morning, Lady Claudius wakes up, remembering she was reviewing documents at her desk. She realizes she woke up in her bed, which means there are documents missing, and that means... Meanwhile, the Duke is sitting in the tea room, thinking it is time for her arrival. Evangelene bursts into the room, shouting his name. He receives her with a calm smile, offering her the tea he poured for her. His sister asks him if he saw her documents and examined them. The Duke answers that the documents were excellent. Evangelene asks him enthusiastically if that's true, and asks him to tell her who reviewed them. He tells her that the result of their reviewing together was truly impressive, expressing his pride, which makes her feel embarrassed. Evangelene composes herself, admitting she received some help from Lady Anie, but asserts she worked hard on them too. The Duke replies he imagines so, to the point that she didn't realize she fell asleep at her desk. Evangelene changes the subject, wondering sadly if he will miss the salon again this year, pointing out he is always busy, but he surprises her by replying that he would like to see the salon she is hosting. Then he adds with a charming smile that he cannot miss the opportunity as long as his sister has invited him. Evangelene asks in surprise if he is telling the truth. She reminds him that he always used to settle for watching the preparations and then leave for work. He reassures her that he was thinking of clearing his schedule this time, but she doubts his words, accusing him of lying, and wonders if he will run away to meetings as usual. The Duke comments that it seems he has committed many sins to the point that he cannot win her trust. She explains to him that at every salon she was always left alone to handle things, and that people wouldn't even approach her. He apologizes to her, but she interrupts him, saying she doesn't want an apology. She tells him she will be with Lady Anie this time, and sternly declares that she cannot attend this salon with him. The Duke gives a slight smile, commenting that this is very unfortunate. Then she asks him seriously if he really liked the documents. He comments that she seems not to trust his words. She explains to him that it's the first time she has seen him admit his admiration for something so easily, especially since he is always hard to please in these matters. He tells her there wasn't much for him to fix. She asks him in surprise if the documents were that good, and his sister declares that Lady Anie is truly amazing, and that she has never met someone with her intelligence before. She asks the Duke if Lady Anie is good at paperwork because she is her family's heiress, as she holds the title of Viscountess. But the Duke doubts this is the reason, admitting he has supervised many administrators before, but Lady Anie's documents stand out as exceptional even among them. Then the lady ends the conversation, declaring she needs to return to work. She suggests he review the budget proposal she will deliver to him by today. He agrees and asks her not to forget to eat breakfast. She returns the greeting, then he sits alone, reflecting. He thinks that perhaps he was restricting her with excessive and unnecessary protection. Then he looks out the window to see his sister eating her breakfast, thinking that she looks more vibrant now. Thus, the two ladies prepared for the salon with all their hearts and souls. Thanks to that, Lariette was able to enter the salon with confidence, after providing the lady with much important information. But she feels some tension regarding the public's evaluation of the lady's planning skills, hoping the reactions will be good. Upon entering the hall, she is dazzled to see all the famous figures of the empire gathered in one place. Wondering that she is seeing the people who were on the guest list in person, she recognizes Marchioness Baldwin and a group of nobles from the Imperial Council. She realizes at that moment that this is the reason Seraphina wanted to leave a good impression on these famous people. Lariette continues her walk around the salon, wondering in confusion how anyone could spread malicious rumors about Lady Claudius while they are eager to attend her prestigious salon, finding that she can never understand this contradiction. At that moment, Lady Claudius surprises her enthusiastically, calling her Lady Anie, telling her she was waiting for her, then grabs her arm happily. The lady continues her talk, conveying the positive impressions of the salon, as everyone seems happy, and they have highly praised the quality of the food and the coordination of the exhibition. Lariette smiles to herself, concluding that these positive responses are what made the lady cling to her arm with such enthusiasm, finding this behavior very cute. But soon, Lady Claudius pulls her arm back, claiming she got a bit carried away with her enthusiasm because of the salon, and asserting she isn't the type who usually loses her composure. Lariette thinks that this retreat is like a cat's retreat, finding the matter very charming, and reassures her that she always overflows with dignity. Then Lariette continues reflecting on her lady's beauty, finding that she looks more magnificent than usual today. Her degree of admiration reaches the point of considering her a masterpiece, and that even the wonderful sculptures and paintings on display seem dull compared to her beauty. Then Lady Claudius asks her opinion of the artworks. Lariette enthusiastically replies that all the works are excellent. Lariette clarifies she wasn't referring to the artworks, but to the planning she participated in, and that only now has she started examining the works the lady chose herself. The lady replies that it doesn't require all this, and invites her to take her time walking around, offering to show her the Claudius family art collection later if she shows interest. Lariette expresses her happiness at this honor. The lady suggests to Lariette that they head first toward the sculptures, which look wonderful. While they are about to move, a manly voice calls, "Evangelene." Lady Claudius turns to be surprised by the presence of her brother. Duke Dietrich von Claudius appears before them in his full elegance and prestige. The attendees are struck with amazement, wondering why the Duke, who doesn't usually participate in such events, is present. Evangelene considers this a perfect opportunity for them to exchange greetings. Evangelene proudly introduces her brother to her new friend, Lariette Anie. Then she introduces him to her formally as her brother, Dietrich von Claudius. Lariette feels confused, realizing she is standing before Seraphina's future partner in the original novel, finding this sudden meeting very awkward. But she quickly composes herself, deciding that all she has to do is return the handkerchief he gave her in their previous meeting. Then there will be no need to see him again. She bows to greet him formally. The Duke smiles kindly, expressing his pleasure at the meeting and his anticipation of knowing them, while Lariette wonders in confusion about the appropriate way to return the handkerchief, as giving it through his sister doesn't seem proper. At that moment, a lady approaches Evangelene, telling her Marchioness Baldwin wishes to see her for a moment. Evangelene turns to her brother, telling him she needs to greet one of the guests, and asks him to take care of Lady Anie in her absence. Lariette feels panic, thinking to herself how this situation happened at the moment she decided not to get involved with him. Lariette whispers behind Evangelene as she moves away, wondering if she will return soon. But Evangelene misunderstands her and points to the appetizer's place. Lariette clarifies that's not what she said. Evangelene reassures her she'll return in a bit. Lariette finds herself alone with the Duke, thinking this situation is catastrophic and that her lady didn't hear her due to the distance between them. The Duke approaches her, calling her name quietly, then notices she doesn't look well and asks if she is okay. Lariette is surprised by his extreme proximity, wondering in panic when he got this close, and whether he heard her conversation with Lady Claudius. She steps back a step quickly, assuring him she is fine, and that she is a bit nervous because this is the first time she has attended a salon. But she trips as she retreats, and her deception widens. The Duke grabs her quickly to prevent her from falling, noticing again that her skin looks very pale. The Duke suggests she sit and rest, and even offers to call a doctor, showing his concern for her condition. Lariette's confusion increases, finding herself unable to look at him directly due to his extreme handsomeness and closeness to her. She tries to refuse in a faltering voice, but she soon moves away from him, asserting she is perfectly fine and even boasts that she has an unparalleled healthy build, and that all that happened was she lost her balance for a moment. The Duke watches her thinking she looks like a panicked rabbit. The Duke smiles kindly, expressing his pleasure to hear that. Lariette feels relief, assuring herself she is fully prepared, as she has prepared everything in advance to be able to converse with high-ranking nobles. But she soon blames herself for her incoherent talk about her healthy build and how she continues to show her clumsy side before him unintentionally. Panic sweeps over her, so she wonders if he will prevent her from befriending his sister because he sees her as an eccentric lady. But he interrupts her silence, calling her name and advancing toward her, then gently extends his hand to her, telling her that with such a healthy build, she will be able to wander around Eva's salon without missing anything. Then he directly invites her to walk around the salon with him. She feels reassured, wondering to herself if her image is still good in his eyes, then accepts his offer politely. While they walk together, Lariat notices the precision of the organization, finding that the lighting is good. The painting frames are not overly flashy, and there are introductory brochures in every section. Happiness overwhelms her, thinking that even with the advice she provided, execution was not an easy matter, and that Lady Claudius had done a truly wonderful job. She continues her admiration of the details, noticing how the nature paintings were placed in a special section and that adding natural elements at the entrance was a very clever touch. The Duke draws her attention to the fact that she seems more interested in the salon arrangements than the artworks themselves. She explains to him that the young lady cut back on her sleep to prepare for this salon, which is why she cannot help but notice these details, adding that she also enjoys the art pieces chosen with refined taste. The Duke looks at her and suddenly asks her if she slept well herself. Lariat is surprised by this direct question and wonders if he is directing it to her. He clarifies he knows she helped with the preparations and that he was worried Eva might have troubled her. Lariat immediately and strongly denies the matter. She elaborates in her defense, asserting that she was the one who encouraged the lady, and that the lady was the one who did all the hard work, and that her role was limited to providing simple advice while the lady made all the wise decisions. The Duke looks at her intently, then smiles and comments that as long as she believes in Eva to this extent, it's no wonder Eva admires her. Lariat is struck with amazement, wondering if the young lady truly admires her. The Duke strongly confirms it to her. The Duke comments that his sister has become brighter since she met Lariat, and that she has gained a strange kind of self-confidence too. This positive change is attributed to the fact that Lariat looked into her heart with care and genuine interest. The Duke expresses his true happiness that Eva has found a good friend, telling her he has always wanted to express his gratitude to her. Lariat is deeply moved by these words, wondering to herself if the lady's family has accepted her as a good friend. Happiness overwhelms her. Admitting to herself she is extremely happy with this recognition. She feels she is about to be moved again, fearing she will put herself in an embarrassing position, so she thanks him for his kind feelings. She decides to change the subject quickly, drawing his attention to an impressive statue and asking if he has seen it. The Duke looks at the statue, explaining it depicts the legend of a nymph. He begins to narrate the legend, which speaks of a nymph who obeyed the orders of a god she loved dearly. But this god did not reciprocate any emotion, but merely exploited her. The legend says that the nymph who suffered from unrequited love eventually turned into a birch tree. Lariat comments on the statue, pointing out she knows this imperial legend due to its great fame. She hears another noble saying the sculptor likely wanted to highlight the nymph's sadness. He elaborates in his interpretation that the nymph gave everything but was met with neglect, which drove her to escape into that form due to her deep sadness, which another noblewoman agrees with, noticing in turn that the statue's expressions look sad. But Lariat reflects on the statue closely, feeling that it doesn't seem exactly like that. The Duke approaches her, noticing her different gaze, and asks if she feels a different emotion in the nymph's expressions. She hesitates at first, then expresses her unique opinion, wondering if a nymph who chose to turn into a tree in the middle of the forest would feel only sadness. She concludes the nymph might have put an end to the days she was dragged from place to place, and that this might be the first choice she ever made for herself. She feels this choice has given her a sense of freedom and comfort, just as she did when she decided to leave the story's heroine, Saraphina, but she soon feels embarrassed, wondering if she provided a strange answer to a simple question. Then she tries to retreat, considering this is just her personal opinion and she shouldn't have said it. However, the Duke rejects her retreat, describing her interpretation as interesting and refreshing. Then he approaches her and whispers a secret to her, that his sister Eva once cried upon hearing this legend, and that he believes she would love to hear this interpretation of hers. She finds the matter cute and agrees to tell her. The Duke reminds her this is a secret between them. Lariat reflects on the Duke's kindness and his care for his sister, but she wonders in confusion how such a kind brother could end up locking his sister in a convent. She stops suddenly, realizing she needs to remember the incident that led to that tragic end in the original novel. She recalls in her memory the end events, where Lady Claudius and Saraphina met in a garden on the banks of the lake. There, Saraphina tried to play the victim role, pleading with the lady to tell her what her mistake was so she could apologize. But Lady Claudius was not deceived. Rather, she called her a fool. She considered her coming to her as her biggest mistake, then pushed her into the lake. The Duke witnessed this scene and rushed to save Saraphina. Since that incident, the young lady was exiled to the convent. She remembers how the novel's readers described the matter as a tragic irony, as a heroine who saved someone from water ends up drowning. But Lariat realizes angrily that the readers were completely deceived like anyone else, and that Saraphina clearly pretended she was lured into falling into the water. Meanwhile, other nobles begin to gather around the Duke. The Duke tells Lariat he has to leave. Lariat thinks this man is a very prominent figure, so she bows to him in farewell, asserting she'll see him next time. The Duke agrees, expressing his hope that they will have an opportunity for a longer conversation in the future. Then the Duke goes on his way. Lariat remains standing with her face turned red, wondering if she was completely swept away by his overwhelming beauty and kind offer, and whether he says that because he truly sees her as a friend. Suddenly, an internal voice bursts into Lariat's mind, scolding her severely, wondering at her daring to think of the Duke, reminding her he is Saraphina's future husband, the faithful man who knows no one but her, and that his kindness to other girls means nothing. But she soon regains her composure, firmly deciding not to let herself be swept away by the heroine's destined lover, for she values her new status and her life too. While she continues her walk around the salon, she thinks she might not be able to fall in love with someone of such magnificence, but her life is changing for the better at least, and that is enough for her. Meanwhile, two ladies were whispering nearby. One pointed out Lady Anie looks radiant today, the other adding that the Duke himself accompanied her. The two ladies continue their talk in amazement. One wonders at seeing the young lady getting along with someone for the first time, while the other is surprised by her sudden humility and communication with a viscount's daughter. But their talk is cut by hearing Lady Claudius's voice standing near them, correcting them coldly that titles do not matter much between friends. The two ladies are deeply flustered upon seeing the young lady, and hurry to apologize. The noblewoman bows deeply, apologizing for her talk that crossed boundaries, and vowing such a situation will not be repeated again. But Lady Claudius ignores their apology coldly, telling them she simply wonders whether they liked the salon, and that she has no specific thoughts about what just happened. The two ladies hasten to confirm their great admiration for the salon, praising the design that looked better than ever, and the wonderful art pieces. Lady Claudius smiles, attributing the salon's success to her friend Lady Anie, explaining she was by her side helping her every step of the way. Then she bids them a kind farewell, promising she will share their kind words with her friend, and invites them to enjoy their time. After she leaves, the two ladies look at her in amazement, as they expected an angry look but were met with a smile, finding they see the young lady in a completely new light, as if she were an angel. Moments later, Lady Claudius finds her friend Lariat sipping a drink. She asks her why she is alone and where her brother went. Lariat answers he went to talk with some other gentleman. Lady Claudius shows childish displeasure, wondering how he left her this way. Lariat clarifies that many people were hoping to talk with the Duke, and she felt he stepped back out of consideration for her feelings. But Lady Claudius insists it would have been better if he accompanied her to the end and vows to have a serious talk with him after the party ends. Lariat reassures her the matter doesn't require that, and he accompanied her wonderfully. Despite that, Lady Claudius still feels uncomfortable. Lariat reassures her with a calm smile, asserting it is enough, and that she has been treated with extreme kindness by both the young lady and the Duke. Lady Claudius smiles, revealing she was hearing praise for the salon on her way to her, and that she took the opportunity to tell everyone the credit goes to Lady Anie, so people now look at her differently. Lariat is deeply moved by this gesture, realizing her friend cares even about the smallest details of her reputation, thinking she almost gave up on an angelic friend like her, and that would have been a grave mistake. Then Lariat mentions she is happy because she sent a letter before coming to the salon. Lady Claudius asks curiously if it was an important letter. Lariat answers with a mysterious smile, asserting the matter isn't that important, and that it's just homework she had to finish. The scene shifts to Saraphina's palace later that night, where a letter from Lariat arrives. The letter reveals a frank confrontation, where Lariat wonders why Saraphina didn't come to judge for herself whether Lady Claudius was bothering her, and hints that her alleged concern was not as great as she claimed. While Saraphina continues reading the letter, she finds their friendship seems very hollow when written this way, and that Lariat fully realizes what Saraphina really wanted when she said those words. Lariat concludes the letter sharply, asserting Saraphina wasn't really worried about her, and that she doesn't intend to see someone who treats her as a tool anymore, ordering her not to let their paths cross again, and signs, Lariat Anie. Saraphina crumples the letter in her hand, and while trying to suppress her anger, she suddenly bursts into a fit of hysterical laughter. She looks out the window in a raging anger, mocking the letter she thought was an invitation. Wondering how Lariat dares to ask her not to cross their paths again, Saraphina explodes in anger, wondering what right Lariat has to decide such a matter, then shouts at her that she is nothing but her lifelong maid. She reassures herself coldly she doesn't care if Lariat avoids her, for she is hers anyway. After the Claudius salon ends successfully, the servants begin cleaning. Lady Claudius collapses from exhaustion, leaning on the table offering thanks to Lariat, considering the salon's success was thanks to her. Lariat reassures her she worked hard, but Lady Claudius denies that, asserting she merely did what Lariat suggested. Then she asks her about the time. Lariat answers it is 8 in the evening and she has to return home now. Lady Claudius panics, wondering if she will leave now, finding the time has indeed become late. While Lariat tries to reassure her she will arrive quickly if she takes a carriage. Lady Claudius hesitates, then hints she heard about a custom where friends spend their night together talking and having fun. Lariat understands her intent immediately, wondering enthusiastically if she means... Lady Claudius confirms while blushing that she means a sleepover party. Lariat is struck with a fit of extreme happiness, finding this suggestion so cute she almost lost consciousness. Lady Claudius hurries to help her, asking anxiously if she is okay. Lariat reassures her, thinking to herself how cute it is to hear a duke's daughter say, sleepover party. Then Lariat claims her legs feel weak, asking her if she can stay at her house tonight. Lady Claudius agrees immediately. Lady Claudius reveals she has already prepared delicious snacks and even card games, in case Lariat felt exhausted, asking her not to worry. Lariat expresses her happiness, finding she is very lucky to have all this. Lady Claudius admits she also wanted to have a sleepover party with her. Happiness overwhelms Lariat, expressing her great honor at this request. Lady Claudius adds enthusiastically she brought several types of nightgowns that suit her, and they can try them on together for fun, just as they did in the store. She adds that since they are new, she can take them with her home when she leaves. Lariat agrees, and is surprised she will display clothes inside the Duke's palace. After Lariat changed her clothes 5 times, she gets tired of the fashion show, and the lady asks her if she lets her win in the card game. Lariat denies that. Then Lady Claudius decides it's time to stop playing and lie down for a bit. Lariat asks permission to lie down beside her. The lady welcomes her and invites her to rest. While they are lying down, Lady Claudius asks Lariat if she has truly gotten over her ex-fiancé. Lariat confirms the matter naturally, explaining if she still cared about him, she wouldn't have sent the engagement annulment papers. Lady Claudius agrees, considering he never deserved her. Then she asks her if there is someone else she cares about now. Lariat answers in the negative, but Lady Claudius insists on her question, wondering if there isn't anyone she finds handsome or kind or attractive. Lariat remembers the Duke for a moment. She thinks to herself she cannot but think of him, for he is the only man who ever treated her with kindness. But she soon denies the matter, asserting there is no one. Lady Claudius picks up this hint, noticing she looks very harmonious with her brother, asking her directly if she admires him. Lariat jumps from her, placed in a state of shock, strongly denying she has any feelings toward Duke Claudius. Lady Claudius responds calmly, expressing she doesn't mind the matter at all, rather wondering about the reason for Lariat's categorical rejection of the idea. Then she reveals the real reason, explaining frankly she hasn't seen her brother laugh with such freedom in public for a long time. She adds she also noticed Lariat looked happy being with him, then describes her brother as sometimes annoying, but a responsible person who can be relied upon. She continues praising him, describing him as more handsome than most men, even considering him the best man she ever knew, but soon retreats, asking Lariat not to take the matter seriously and to consider it just passing words. After their talk ends, the two ladies lie in bed, but Lariat finds difficulty sleeping, thinking to herself, sleeping in an unfamiliar bed is always difficult. Despite that, she feels happy because she managed to see her friend sleeping peacefully. Since she cannot sleep anyway, she decides to go out to the balcony to breathe some fresh air. She is dazzled by the beauty of the rose garden that looks wonderful even at night, enjoying the breathtaking view. But suddenly, her hair ribbon flies in the air, and her gaze turns toward it anxiously. A man catches the flying ribbon before it moves away, and when she turns to see who it is, she is surprised by his presence. Duke Claudius reveals himself, expressing his surprise because he didn't expect to meet her so quickly, noticing she is still awake. Then he asks her kindly if she couldn't sleep either. Lariat realizes his room is located right next to hers, and answers him in the affirmative. Lariat feels some embarrassment meeting the same man immediately after her talk about ideal specifications with his sister, while the Duke clarifies he went out to breathe some air during his work. Then he tells her there was a matter he wanted to ask her about for a while. He politely asks her to grant him a few moments of her time if she doesn't mind. He reveals his question, explaining he was wondering for some time about her reason for sending a letter to his sister Eva. Lariette realizes his curiosity is logical, as she sent that letter at a time when the young lady didn't have anyone close to her, and it's natural the matter raises his suspicions, especially since she is of a lower noble class. Lariette answers him honestly, explaining she was in need of a new friend. She explains to him she had those she called friends, but she failed to integrate with them due to their differing personalities. The Duke asks her if she means Lady Lopez and Lord Gusto. She confirms the matter to him, adding she annulled her engagement and cut all ties with them since. Then, the Duke seems somewhat surprised upon hearing of the engagement annulment. Lariette continues her talk, explaining at the moment she decided to form a new friendship, the young lady came to her mind. She remembers how she was standing alone in the crowd without mingling with anyone, and that loneliness seemed very similar to her own. For this reason, she sent the letter, and the young lady was the only one who replied to her letter. Lariette adds that despite her gloomy appearance, the lady didn't have any prejudices against her, and she is a very dear friend who accepted her exactly as she is. The Duke feels relief upon hearing this honest talk. Then he smiles kindly, commenting, "It seems Eva is capable of being a good person in someone's eyes, and that he thought he was the only one who cherished her." Lariette thinks to herself she has just witnessed the smile of Dietrich the man, not Dietrich the Duke. Lariette feels shy, thinking to herself as if she has fabricated a glimpse of a hidden scene, not witnessed even by the story's heroine yet. The Duke changes the talk, asking her about her opinion of the salon today. She wakes from her reverie and answers him enthusiastically that the salon was truly wonderful. Then she asks him if he chose the displayed art pieces himself. He clarifies, Eva chose many pieces, and there are other works chosen through open submission, but he was the one who handled the final review. Then he asks her in turn if Eva grumbled much during the preparations, or if she made excessive demands from her. Lariette thinks to herself the young lady must look like a child in the Duke's eyes, and answers him she performed her duties with great responsibility. The Duke continues his talk, expressing his concern because this is the first time he entrusted her with such a task, and he feels more comfortable when she isn't burdened with difficult works. Lariette notices he seems a bit overprotective, wondering if that's due to his heavy sense of responsibility he carried since he inherited the Duke title at such an early age. She expresses her hope the Duke can cast his burdens aside for some time too, then asks him if his work burden is heavy because he looks tired. He answers her, this is just his daily routine, but she insists on advising him not to exhaust himself working late at night, asserting his health is the most important of all. He answers her with a calm smile that her health is also equally important. Lariette freezes in her place, thinking to herself she almost fell under his overwhelming beauty's influence again. The Duke approaches that it is better for them to go to sleep now, and wishes her a good night, but he stops her before she leaves and politely asks her if they could not consider this meeting their promised meeting. He clarifies he refers to the next time they talked about in the salon. She is struck with shock, wondering in confusion what he means by his words. She agrees in a hurry, asserting next time she will greet him with appropriate propriety, while thinking to herself she'll really get a wrong idea if he continues talking as if he is asking her out on a date. Then he bids her farewell until then and leaves, so she remains standing feeling uncomfortable from this unexpected intimacy. She thinks the Duke is surely a faithful brother to his sister, but if she continues to get involved with him, she will inevitably have to cross with Saraphina. But she stops suddenly, realizing even if she avoided this situation, what about the young lady herself? She reaches the fact that the person who will find that end, where Saraphina becomes her brother's wife, absolutely intolerable is the young lady herself. So she decides instead of blindly avoiding the situation, it's better to stay by her side and prepare countermeasures against Saraphina's schemes. She resolves to think only of the young lady and to make her her priority. The next day, Lariette receives a gift, wondering in confusion what it might be. Lady Claudius tells her the gift is tea produced by Claudius' estate, and her brother insisted on presenting it as a gift to her, sarcastically referring to the ribbon he used to tie the box. Lariette is surprised that the Duke was the one who sent it, wondering to herself if all this meticulous care was really necessary just to return a ribbon, deciding to accept it gratefully. Evangelene starts teasing her, wondering what is happening between her and her brother, and why he would send her a gift. Lariette replies in confusion that the reason might simply be she is his sister's friend. Evangelene finds the matter strange, commenting her brother completely lacks propriety in such matters but decides to ignore the matter. She asks Lariette to rest, promising she'll write to her soon. Evangelene smiles slyly, telling her even if she sent a reply to her brother, she'll pretend she knows nothing, describing her as a lady with great popularity. Lariette shouts in a state of panic that it's not like that at all. While the carriage moves away, Lariette continues to deny the matter, asserting she is a person who knows her limits well, while Evangelene thinks with a sly smile that maybe she should go tease her brother, for it has been a long time since she saw his confused face. The Duke starts justifying his position, explaining to his sister Lady Anie helped her much in her endeavor, wondering if sending her without a single gift isn't a breach of propriety rules. Confusion appears on Evangelene's face. Evangelene protests his words, explaining she had a dress specially tailored for Lady Anie, even gave her a private tour in the Hall of Stars, which includes the family's most precious artworks. But the Duke answers her calmly. She did well, and he simply thought it was better to show interest until the end, which is why he took care of the matter himself. But Evangelene isn't convinced, facing him that this is the first time ever he presents a gift to a lady. The Duke replies the only reason is the circumstances were unexpected. The Duke continues his justification, explaining she is the lady who helped his dear sister delve into practical affairs, wondering if it isn't natural to show his sincere intentions. Evangelene answers him. He knows this isn't what she means, but he claims misunderstanding, which sparks her anger because she failed to tease him. Evangelene decides she'll present a gift to Lady Anie too, and asks her brother to lend her the family lawyer, Sir Douglas, for a moment. The Duke asks her for what purpose she needs the family lawyer. She answers him with a mysterious smile, explaining the contract needs renewal. She adds she doesn't intend to be a temporary friend, but a formal friend. In a later scene, Lariat advances toward her lady hesitantly, telling her this contract looks wrong regardless of how many times she looked at it. Lady Claudius asks her coldly what she means by wrong, asserting she was reviewing it accurately for days. Lariat explains the problem lies in the maintenance expenses clause. Lady Claudius believes she feels the amount is small, explaining she wrote a smaller amount because she thought she would feel burdened, wondering if it's still not enough. Then she suggests slyly changing the payments from quarterly to monthly. She adds this will enable her to buy enough clothes to make her wardrobe explode. Lariat shouts in panic, wondering what she is talking about. Then the narrative returns to the fourth day after the salon ended, which is the day Lariat arrived at this state of continuous hiccups, where Lady Claudius arrived on a visit as promised, accompanied by a lawyer. Lariat welcomes her, but apologizes because she couldn't prepare appropriate refreshments because she just received her letter. Lady Claudius reassures her, telling her she brought some with her. While Lariat leads her inside, she apologizes again because she should have prepared something. But Lady Claudius asks her to put the cake aside because she will leave soon, and she bought it only so she could taste it later. She explains it's a cake from her favorite store, and since it's a special day, she wanted to present it to her as a gift. Lariat wonders in confusion about what special day she is talking about. The lawyer calls her name. She turns to him. Lady Claudius asks her sarcastically if she thought she came here with just a trivial dessert. She announces she has come here to renew their agreement through a formal friendship contract. Happiness overwhelms Lariat, considering this day is indeed a special day, thinking she will become a formal friend of, but she stops in a state of absolute shock while reading the first clause of the contract, which states Evangelene von Claudius will pay Lariat Anie 50,000 dirks every 3 months to cover her maintenance expenses. The rest of the clauses clarify nearly 70% of Lariat's maintenance expenses must be spent on clothes, personal allowance, and other matters to maintain her dignity, and any remaining balance must be disposed of by Lariat Anie personally. Lariat shouts in shock, wondering what this contract is, as the amount is roughly equivalent to $50,000. She thinks to herself she was completely stunned by this development, looking at the contract with her hands trembling. She tells her lady the amount is not small at all. Rather, it is very generous, not to mention the fact she pays her maintenance expenses in the first place. Lady Claudius asks her what the problem is with that. Lady Claudius tells her she needs an appropriate battlesuit to make Lady Lopez turn green with envy, reminding her they were going to join hands together to overthrow her. Evangelene justifies her position calmly while sipping her tea, expressing that she has no objection to the matter, as she possesses an abundance of money and simply wishes to invest it in someone she holds dear. Lariat tries to object hesitantly, but Evangelene interrupts her, explaining that this investment is also in her own personal interest, given that they will appear together in society, and she cannot feel at ease until she ensures that everything within her sphere of responsibility is fully cared for. Evangelene pauses for a moment, appearing somewhat shy, then corrects her words by clarifying that her last comment usually applied to her flowers, but since it now includes Lariat, she must change the word to beings instead of possessions. Then she moves past this awkward moment and urges Lariat to hurry and sign the contract, reassuring her not to worry about the expenses because the Claudius family is the wealthiest in the empire. Lariat is deeply moved by this attention, realizing in her heart that she is the young lady's first true friend, which melts her hesitation. Lariette picks up the pen to sign the contract, but she sets a condition of her own, declaring that she will not use the money granted to her except when she is in Evangelene's company. This condition pleases Evangelene greatly. She warns Lariette with a smile that she will end up choosing all her clothes herself, asking if she will regret this decision, to which Lariette replies confidently that she will never regret it, expressing her pride that her first true friend is the young lady. Thus, the formal friendship contract is concluded, and Lariette contemplates the document with a smile of satisfaction and happiness. Lariette raises the contract paper in the air with excessive enthusiasm, expressing her overwhelming happiness because their friendship has become official and is no longer temporary, declaring that she will keep this contract as a family heirloom, which evokes laughter from Evangelene, who teases her about how enthusiastic she is over a mere piece of paper. Lariette tells her with a warm smile that even without physical evidence, they have become two people who share feelings, so there is no need for exaggerated worry about the contract. She insists on the importance of the paper, considering it carries the fingerprints of their new friendship, which makes her unable to hide her happiness. Her emotions reach the point of likening the contract to a knight's oath to stand by one another, proudly thinking that they must be the first to prove their friendship in such a unique way. This leaves Evangelene stunned and taken by her friend's pure kindness. Lariette agrees with her with a bright laugh, confirming her own happiness as well. Then Evangelene changes the subject, suggesting they go out together to celebrate the signing of the contract, and Lariette playfully wonders if this means they will spend the maintenance money immediately. Evangelene clarifies as they prepare to head out that she is looking for something other than clothes today, pointing out that the person who needs to show their precision in observation this time is not her, but Lariette. Evangelene looks at Lariette pleadingly, asking for her help with something, and invites her to accompany her. Lariette responds with great enthusiasm, expressing her honor to provide assistance, and they set off together into the city streets. Inside a luxury store, Evangelene presents Lariette with two different teacups and asks for her opinion on which looks more beautiful. Lariette examines the two cups, then points to one of them, expressing her personal preference for it. Lariette thinks to herself with a smile that asking for help to choose a teacup is very sweet, but Evangelene takes the matter with utmost seriousness, considering it a matter of great importance. Evangelene explains the reason for her seriousness, clarifying that she is choosing a new tea set for the townhouse, as she decided to take responsibility for the house's internal management this time, having obtained her brother's permission for that. Lariette is amazed by this development and realizes the magnitude of the responsibility placed upon the young lady's shoulders, thinking that this is a golden opportunity for Evangelene to solidify her position and prove her worth. Based on this, Lariette begins to provide practical advice, suggesting she take into account the desires of the people who will actually use these tools, and that she compare prices between various merchant guilds instead of settling for a single store. But Lariette stops suddenly, apologizing in confusion because she interfered in the internal affairs of the Duke's house, believing the young lady already had a well-thought-out plan. Evangelene approaches her to reassure her, asserting that she did not overstep her bounds and that she deeply desires to hear her opinion. Then she looks at her with pleading eyes, wishing that she would help her manage the house just as she helped make the salon a success. Lariette retreats in a state of tension, joking that using her beauty to convince her isn't fair, then explains that the salon was a short-term event, while managing the affairs of the duchy is a massive matter that an outsider like her should not interfere in. But Evangelene settles the matter, telling her that her brother the Duke has already granted permission, specifically the permission for Lariette to assist her. This news strikes Lariette with violent shock, and she begins to tremble as she processes that the Duke himself has allowed her to interfere in his family's internal affairs, which makes her feel a deep sense of awe. Lariette reaches a state of internal panic, wondering in her mind why both the Duke and the young lady place all this immense trust in her, in a scene that highlights the magnitude of the new responsibility placed upon her. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Duke Claudius was busy with his work when he felt a sudden itch in his ears, wondering to himself if someone was talking about him. Back at the store, Lariette was trying to back out of the situation, asserting to the young lady that even with the Duke's permission, a stranger like her cannot interfere in the family's internal affairs. But Lady Claudius rejected this logic, wondering how Lariette could be considered a stranger when she is her friend. Nevertheless, Lariette insisted on her position that she cannot dare to interfere in the house's internal matters. Lady Claudius did not back down, but rather downplayed the scale of the task, explaining that it does not exceed the budget of the townhouse, and expressed her sincere desire to learn from Lariette given her accounting sense and refined taste. The lady recalls in her memory how she felt useful for the first time when she was preparing for the salon with Lariat, and how she felt as if she were indeed capable of handling her own responsibilities. Lariat was moved by the sincerity of these words that touched her heart. When Lady Claudius noticed her hesitation, she returned to teasing her cleverly, wondering if she needed financial compensation for this help as well. These words were enough to shatter Lariat's defenses. She immediately grabbed her lady's hands and announced her agreement to help, pleading with her not to speak of money again. Lady Claudius smiled triumphantly, asserting she would rely on her again, while Lariat thinks to herself how skillfully her lady exploits her weakness toward money, yet she accepted the matter with affection. Since they were already out of the house, Lariat suggested they start by conducting market research instead of reviewing the budget first, and Lady Claudius agreed immediately, explaining she had already prepared a list. Lady Claudius began listing a long array of things they had to check, from furniture and wallpaper to tableware and garden flowers, which struck Lariat with amazement and prompted her to wonder if she intended to buy all that in one day. Lady Claudius reassured her that they needed to look at a wide variety of options before making a decision, and that today's tour was for reconnaissance only. While Lariat thinks that her lady's enthusiasm resembles that of a girl moving into her first apartment. Despite knowing the immense wealth the Duke's family possesses, Lariat noticed that the young lady had a tendency toward extravagance, starting from the way she spends her own allowance. Therefore, she resolved to start correcting this habit in her beginning from this moment. She took a promise from Lady Claudius that they would settle for looking at everything without buying anything. The lady agreed, asserting she is someone who always keeps her promises. But after a few hours of wandering, Lariat collapsed from exhaustion as her arms and legs were trembling from so much walking. They finally reached their last stop, the flower shop. Lariat recalls in her mind how she had lowered her guard because they weren't shopping for clothes, but the tour was extremely exhausting as they sat on 41 different chairs, examined every piece in the tableware store, and entered into a lengthy discussion about wallpaper, reaching the conviction that her lady would not rest until she found what she liked perfectly. Despite all this fatigue, she felt happy to see Lady Claudius enjoying her time. Meanwhile, a very beautiful luxury fountain pen caught Lariat's attention. She admired its elegance and thought it befits only people of refined taste, which made her wonder if the Duke used something like this in his work. When she remembered his gift to her, which was tea with an elegant ribbon, she thought she must return the handkerchief he gave her. Then she wondered to herself if she should give him a gift as well. But her thoughts were suddenly interrupted by Lady Claudius's voice, asking her what she was looking at in such a way. Lariat screamed in surprise, which raised her lady's astonishment, who asked her about the reason for her extreme fright. Then she asked her if she wished to buy the fountain pen. Lariat thanked her for the offer, explaining it was not for personal use. Lariat wondered aloud if Duke Claudius used such pens. Lady Claudius commented that her brother is a formidable figure, and perhaps this design wouldn't be quite suitable for him. Here, Lady Claudius realized the matter, and asked Lariat slyly if she wished to present a gift to her brother. Lariat answered in confusion that the Duke had gifted her the tea leaves last time. Lariat felt panic, wondering to herself if a gift carrying no romantic feelings might seem suspicious, so she quickly explained that she only asked because the design seemed suitable for him. Lady Claudius ignored the matter and pointed to another pen engraved with a rose, considering it perfect for Lariat. Lariat reminded her that they agreed not to buy, then suggested she present it to her lady as a gift. Lady Claudius refused and told her to forget the matter if she was only trying to return the favor. Then Lady Claudius retreated with a sly smile, saying she was joking and that the first pen is indeed beautiful and would suit her brother perfectly, encouraging her to present it to him, asserting he would surely like it. Lady Claudius explains that her brother, unlike formal gifts between noble families or for the imperial family, rarely receives personal gifts, as he is a person who knows nothing but work after all. Lariat wonders how someone of his status could not receive gifts. Lady Claudius explains that in the past he received many gifts and engagement letters from young ladies, but she clarifies that her brother used to categorically reject them all, or return anything excessive, which led to the spread of this reputation. Now people settled for sending invitations at most and were content with admiring him from afar. Lariat remembers at that moment what she read in the original novel, that the Duke saw no one but Saraphina, but she didn't know he avoided ladies' gifts in general. Nevertheless, she decides that her gift is still within the framework of returning the handkerchief, thus there shouldn't be any problem in presenting it. Lady Claudius notices her hesitation and asks her the reason for not buying the pen, which puts Lariat in a state of confusion. Then she pushes her gently to buy, urging her to hurry before someone else buys it. Lariette finds no escape but to agree. Thus, Lariette finds herself having bought the gift in the end, driven by her friend's enthusiasm. Lady Claudius smiles slyly, telling her she will pretend to know nothing until Lariette presents the gift to her brother. Lariette wonders that her friend seems more enthusiastic than she is about the subject, wondering what exactly she is. Planning. At a perfect timing, the carriage arrives at its destination. Lariette thanks her lady for dropping her off. Lady Claudius promises her she will send her a carriage the next day as well. Lady Claudius bids her farewell, wishing for her to rest well. Lariette returns the greeting and wishes her a safe journey, asserting she will see her tomorrow. After the carriage leaves, Lariette remains standing while waving her hand, then smiles with great happiness while thinking about her day. While she contemplates the gift she bought for the Duke, she remembers that she bought another gift for her lady without her noticing, wondering if she will like it if she presents it to her before their lesson tomorrow. But this quiet moment is suddenly interrupted by a sudden appearance. Saraphina emerges from among the trees, calling her name and telling her she has finally arrived, and that they must talk. Lariette is struck with shock, wondering about the reason for her presence here, and most importantly, reminding her of the letter in which she asked that their paths not cross again. Saraphina grabs her arm strongly, asserting that the letter is exactly what she wants to talk about. This sudden scene strikes her servants with panic, and the gift box falls from her hand. Lariette reassures her maid Anie, telling her she will talk to her for a moment and then return, asking her to gather the items that fell. The two servants observe the situation with concern, as they haven't seen Lady Lopez act in this way before, wondering what could have angered her to this extent. Then they wonder anxiously if their mistress will be okay. Lariette wonders to herself how someone who cares about her image so much can act with this force, especially before others. Saraphina wonders since when this change began. Saraphina faces her with a direct question, wondering since when. She stopped caring about her, and was that since the Johansson tea party, or even before that? Lariette answers that delving into these issues now will not fix anything between them. Saraphina explodes in anger, grabbing Lariette strongly, and shouts in her face, accusing her that she is the one pushing her away now. She reminds her that she used to do everything she asked with a smile, and never grumbled throughout those years. Rather, she said she loves being with her. And now suddenly she says she doesn't love her. She continues her shouting, wondering about her reason for going to the princess, asserting she was always by her side and that she was her friend, then shouts words that reveal her true self, telling her that she is hers. Lariette is struck with bewilderment, wondering how Saraphina, who always chose angelic words, could say such things. She realizes at that moment that Saraphina is revealing her true colors, and that the original story she knows has begun to deviate significantly from its path.